All right, welcome everyone to the Kiro Hackathon kickoff live stream. I've been waiting all week for this. Super excited. So, the plan for today is I'm going to cover exactly what we've got going on with the hackathon. So, I'll hit on all the details for you guys so you know what's up, talk about the prize pool and the timeline and what you'll submit and things like that. And then I'll get into a special template that I have for you all. So I'll tease this really quickly right now. This is the Dynamous Kiro Hackathon Quick Start template. And so a resource that I built for you to make it as easy as possible to use Kiro and compete in the hackathon. And then, of course, we're going to have a lot of time just for Q&A. And so I'm going to do a bit of a live build, leveraging the template, and just chatting with you guys as we're waiting for Kiro to finish all the different requests that we have for it. And so, not sure exactly how long this stream will go, but usually I just kind of go with the flow, right? And so if you guys have a lot of questions and bring up a lot of cool things to talk about, then I'll just keep going. I don't really run out of energy with these live streams because I always have so much fun with them. So yeah, let me go ahead and open up the chat here. I'll give a bit of time for everyone to come in before we get started. My plan is to actually, like, as I show you guys what's up with the hackathon and getting into the template, I'm going to be turning it into a YouTube video as well. So I'm going to take a video straight from the live stream, which I've never done before, but I want to start doing that and actually live streaming a lot more. And so that's kind of another sort of announcement for everyone is I do plan on doing more live streams going forward on my channel, like 1 or 2 a week instead of once a month. That's generally what my cadence has been up until this point. So yeah, just doing a lot more like live builds with you guys, using AI coding assistants, building AI agents, all the stuff that I like covering on my channel, but just doing more of it and doing it live with you all. So yeah, let's go to the chat here. Hello from Colombia. Hey. Yeah, if you guys want to like just say where you're from, I always like starting streams with that. Hi from Italy. Very cool. The template is very cool. I'm going to learn a good bit from it. Yeah, so there is quite a bit of takeaways from the template that I'll cover when I get into it. I'm really excited for you guys to get your hands on it as well. And by the way, when I'm looking at different monitors here, I've got the chat on the left monitor, obviously what I'm presenting to you on my main monitor, and then I have my streaming software on the right side. And so I'll mostly be looking at the chat on the left here. Any friends from Discord or Reddit? I assume you mean the Kiro Discord or Reddit, which there was an announcement in the Kiro Discord for the hackathon. So this is like in partnership with Kiro and AWS. And so I do have direct access to the team as well. If there's any issues that we encounter together with the Kiro IDE or CLI, I can bring it straight to them during the hackathon. So hopefully there's quick resolution for any little glitches there might be in the platform because as anyone building software knows, there's always going to be bugs in the software. And so I've seen glitches in Cursor and Claude Code and Kiro. I mean, all the coding agents are never going to be perfect. But it's cool that like I have direct access to the team for us. Perth, Australia. Very cool. King Cole. Hello. Good morning. Hi, Kiro Discord team. New York City, UK, Spain, Greece, Nigeria. Very cool. Wisconsin, right next door to me. I'm in Minnesota, if you guys don't know that, in the US. Hey, from Atlanta, Bangladesh. Wow, all right, all over the world. I just love seeing this every time. Poland. Hey, all you cool peeps. Hey, Pat. Hope it's going well for you. All right, another Atlanta, unless it's the same person. It's not the same person, so we got 2 people from Atlanta. Very cool. Good morning from the Space Coast. When will we start the hackathon? After today or later? So good question. I'm going to hit on that when I give an intro here. But today, January 3rd, is the kickoff, and it's more just to get everyone on the same page with what we got coming up. And then January 5th, so this Monday, is the official start to the hackathon. And I'll reiterate that as well when I give the overview because that's going to be what I clip into the YouTube video as well. So just a heads up for you guys, it might be like a little, I wouldn't call it awkward, but it's going to be like, I'll repeat myself a little bit just as I start the segment that I like actually want as the YouTube video. So I kind of have to like get used to doing that. I've never done that kind of thing before where I like set up something in a stream to be taken as a YouTube video later on. Lithuania, hi from the dark web. All right, what's up? Hey, from LA, any Dynamous fellows here? I think there's a lot of people from Dynamous here because I got like a large RSVP in the community when I put up the event. And I'll be talking about Dynamous as well today because that's also where we're hosting the Kiro Hackathon. So I'll get into that in a little bit. Netherlands, Munich, very cool. What is this? This is a hackathon, which is a programming competition. So you build things with AI coding assistants, and then you're judged based on some criteria that I'll talk about later as well, and you win cash prizes if you place in the top 10. So that's what's up for today. We're covering what it takes to compete and just all the details that you need. Like by the end of this live stream, and I'm going to cover all the details pretty early on. And so basically this live stream is going to be at first covering everything you need to know in a pretty concise way. Like I'm not going to drone on and on. Then the last part of the stream, I'll be using the Kiro CLI and the quick start that I have for the hackathon to build something live with you, just to give you like a full demonstration of what it looks like to start competing in the hackathon. So that part will take probably more of the live stream, but up front, I'll just get you everything you need to know really, really quickly. So that's the plan for today. All right, France, India, very, very cool. Skynet, Colorado Springs, Torrington, literally another world. Morocco. So why the Kiro CLI and not IDE, or both? So the CLI, well, you know what? I think I'll get into this when I give the introduction here. I'll answer the question for sure. You can use both if you want. The CLI, I think, is just most people's preference because people are familiar with things like using Claude Code, especially. All right. So for the hackathon, are we supposed to submit anything on January 5th or submit directly close to the end date? So you can submit any point during any point of the submission period. So between January 5th and the 23rd. So you could submit right away if you build something really quick, but generally people are going to be submitting closer to January 23rd because like this is the time period for you to work on the application or work on whatever you're building for your submission. All right. And then someone asked why Kiro in the first place. So yeah, I mean, this is in partnership with Kiro and AWS. The only reason that I am able to have a $17,000 prize pool for you guys is because I'm working with Kiro, and they are actually supplying the prize pool. So I guess you could say it's sponsored by Kiro. There's no money going to me though. Like let me be absolutely clear. The entire like whatever they're sponsoring with, like that is the prize pool. And so I'm doing this completely for free. Like me and the Kiro team are bringing this to you sort of as a New Year present almost, right? Like we want to just create a buzz and get you guys excited and building cool things. And there's not any like monetary gain on my part. So I hope that makes sense. All right. So I think, yeah, thanks Kiro, thanks Cole. Yeah, you're welcome. I'm really excited for this. I'm excited to see what you guys build. So yeah, I think we can go ahead and dive in. I'm just gonna check. Okay, so we got a bit over 100 people on the stream right now. Very, very cool. Excited for that. All right. Let's see. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to cover before we get started here, because I'm going to get into the segment that I'll like take as the YouTube video. And this is where I'll introduce you guys to everything here. No money, just vibes. Yeah, that's exactly right. Though I wouldn't necessarily recommend vibe coding for this hackathon here, because you have a lot of time to build something very impressive. So we'll talk about that as well once we get into the demo and what I have for you guys in the quick start, because I actually have like a full workflow built out that you guys can leverage, like different commands to help you plan, implement, and validate your solution. And so not something you have to follow, but there's some good resources that I have curated for you, and I've created some custom for you guys for the hackathon here. And so in competing, not only do you get to have a chance at an awesome prize pool and build something cool, but also a lot of like my strategies around working with coding assistants, building systems, and context engineering. I have that as a part of the template for you. So yeah. Is this doable if you are a beginner? So yeah, definitely. The Kiro CLI is very easy to use. The quick start, I've made it as easy as possible to dive right in. I would say you can definitely compete as a beginner to software engineering, using coding assistants, whatever you're referring to exactly. I'd 100% encourage it. All right. So we'll have more time for Q&A as well, so you can feel free to keep putting questions in the chat. So my plan is to go over all the details of the Kiro Hackathon, then I'll answer any questions, and then I'll get into the quick start template. So this is going to be the part where I'll like clip it to be the YouTube video. So yeah, again, I'll repeat myself a little bit, just bear with me. But what I'm about to dive into is now like everything you need to know for the hackathon here. So, all right. Welcome everyone to the Dynamous Kiro Hackathon. I have been planning this for months now with the Kiro and AWS team. It's actually an idea that originated way back in July of last year. So I helped them record some content for the initial launch of Kiro. That's also when we talked about potentially doing a hackathon. We were maybe going to do it in October, but then they had their Halloween Kiro Hackathon they were hosting themselves, so there's a bit of a conflict there. So it took time to get to here, but now finally we've got the hackathon for you all. And so I'm doing this during a live stream and turning this into a YouTube video as well. Right before I started doing this portion for the video, I was telling everyone on the stream that I'm not getting paid anything to do this, and neither is AWS. They are supplying the $17,000 prize pool for you guys, and we're just doing it to have a fun event for you all. It's a chance for you guys to build something awesome with the Kiro CLI, show it to the world, and compete for glory, and of course, some money from the prize pool here. And I'll talk about the prize pool in a little bit. What I want to do with you guys right now is talk about how you can participate in the hackathon, everything that's up with it, and then I'm going to get into a quick start template that I have for you guys. So this GitHub repository, I'll actually go ahead and link it in the chat of the live stream. And then if you're watching the YouTube video, I will have this in the description of the video. So I'll have this page where you can go to register, as well as the GitHub repository. And so I'll cover this template at a high level, how it gets you started really quickly with the Kiro CLI. Also, there's some resources here to learn how to use Kiro very effectively and quickly. And then we have the quick start template, and I'll cover what this looks like and how it can basically, you can use it to set up your development environment in just minutes to get the ball rolling on your project. But yeah, let's cover the details of the hackathon first. And so the hackathon is starting officially this Monday, January 5th. So right now, we're at the top of the timeline here, January 3rd. This is the launch party live stream. And so on the 5th, that is when submissions will be open. And so when you register for the hackathon, which by the way, all you have to do to register is click on the Join Hackathon button right here. And that's going to bring you into the Dynamous community. Let me actually pull up the link for this right here. It'll bring you straight into the Dynamous community where you'll have this Kiro Hackathon section open to you. So if you're not in the Dynamous community, this is the only section that you will see. If you're already a member of Dynamous, then you will have this just added into all of the other sections that you have access to in Dynamous. And so then you'll also be receiving announcements throughout the event as well. So on January 5th, I'll do an email blast letting you all know how exactly you can submit your project once you are ready. But you have until January 23rd to complete your submission and get it submitted. And I'll talk about everything that has to go into the submission in a little bit as well. And so, yeah, I definitely don't expect many people to submit right away on January 5th because this is your time frame to build. But yeah, you certainly can if you whip up something fantastic right away and you're confident it's going to win. I mean, you can totally just go for it. And then throughout January 5th through 23rd, you'll be receiving announcements in the community and over email, just reminding you how much time you have left and giving you tips and tricks for working on your project as well. So keeping it really, really engaging. And then once we reach the deadline here on January 23rd, that is when the judging period starts. And this is exciting because it's not confirmed yet, but we might have AWS guest judges come in and help me go through all of your submissions. And so me and the Dynamous team will be looking through everything, figuring out the winners, and then we will announce the winners during another live stream that I'll be doing on Saturday, February 7th. And I'll probably do it at the same time as this live stream, so 9 a.m. Central Time. Stay tuned for an announcement on that as well. That's just another one of those things that I'll announce throughout the submission period here. And the prize pool here. So first place is a whopping $5,000. The hackathon that I did last year, that was the entire prize pool, was $5,000. And now it's $17,000 with first place getting $5,000. So Yeah, it's a very rewarding hackathon if you place, but even if you don't, there's still so much learning to be had by going through the full process of building an application for a competition. But yeah, 3,000 for second place, second or 2,000 for third place, and then fourth through 10th will each get $1,000. So there's quite a bit of opportunity for the cash prize here for the hackathon. Now, as far as what you build, it's very open-ended. And so the only big requirement is that you have to use the Kiro CLI. Now, there is also the Kiro IDE, and I want to talk about that for a second as well. There were some questions in the live stream earlier on using the Kiro IDE. You can use the IDE, but you are encouraged to use the CLI. And that's actually a decision that I made. I proposed it to the AWS and Kiro team. I'm like, hey, I think that using command line interfaces to work with coding agents is the future. So I would actually prefer to encourage people to use the CLI, because I really do think that the IDE isn't really necessary anymore, because we're just going to keep relying on coding agents more and more, and working in tools like Claude Code. You guys have probably worked with those kinds of tools before, or the Cursor CLI. That's really all that you need. Keep it simple, keep it nimble, and so you don't have to use the CLI. You can use the IDE if you want, but that's just a big encouragement that I have for you. And so that's the only constraint. As far as what you actually build, it can be literally any kind of software that you want. Web apps, AI agents, CLI tools, APIs and microservices, any kind of automations that you want to build, mobile applications. There's probably a million categories that I don't have listed here, but it's completely open-ended. And so the quick start that I'll cover with you in a little bit, the prompts and steering documents, which are global rules, I'll talk about that in a sec. Everything that I have for you as a resource is going to be applicable no matter what you want to build. And so you're not shoehorned or really guided into building any kind of application throughout this hackathon. And then as far as what you're going to be judged on with your final submission, there's a bit of a rubric that I have defined here on this website, so you know exactly what you're supposed to shoot for with your application. So the main thing is just making something awesome. But there are a couple of other things to keep in mind. There's also some required documentation that you have to submit along with your app. Nothing crazy, and I'll talk about that to make it really clear for you right now. And then there also is something in the quick start template that I have for you. It's basically a workflow defined for Kiro to judge your application before you send it into the human judges, right? So it'll actually walk through the rubric here and tell you how you think, or how it thinks you will score. And so that's something that I'll demo live for you later as well, just to make it really easy for you guys to get a grasp on everything that you have to create for the hackathon. And so the main thing is the application quality. That's literally 40 points out of the 100 in the rubric. So almost half of it is just how complete and functional is your app? Does it provide real world value, and what's the code quality look like overall? Is it something that's maintainable and well structured? That's the kind of thing that we'll be looking for. And then 20 points will go to the Kiro CLI usage. So how effectively are you using the features of Kiro? And like I said, you could use the IDE if you want, and a lot of the features are really similar. The way that you set up global rules and your workflows with commands and things like that is very, very similar. And then the documentation matters quite a bit as well. That's something that I'll hit on in a little bit. And then innovation, like how unique is your solution? Because yeah, there's a lot of problems that you can solve, but they've already been solved a billion times. And so, yeah, I mean, application quality matters more. So you could build something that has already been solved a million times and score pretty well. But innovation does matter for a decent number of points here in the rubric. And then last but not least is the presentation, because we do ask for a demo video, just a really, really short 1 to 2 minute video to go along with your submission. It's a just the lowest amount of points out of everything in the rubric, but yeah, we will be including this as well, because we want to see your guys' excitement as you present your application. And so the demo video, I think, is really just an opportunity for you to actually be able to speak to the application yourself and show how excited you are for what you built. Because in the end, yes, the prize pool is a big part of this hackathon and probably a huge motivator for a lot of you. But I hope that even more than that, the motivator is just you get to build something awesome. And there's going to be so many resources given to you throughout the hackathon, like the template that I'll show you in a little bit. And so, yeah, you could just like go and build something outside of the hackathon, but it's a community all building something together. It's me and others sharing resources for you. And so, really, this will help you build something even more than if you were to just do it yourself. And so, that's why I hope that like you can be excited about what you create as you share it. Now, for the required documentation, there are a few different things within Kiro that you'll be using as you build your app, and we want you to submit that as well as the application itself. And so Kiro has the idea of steering documents. This is the same as global rules. If you've used Codex with the agents.md or Claude Code with the Claude.md, or Cursor. It used to be called Cursor Rules. Now it's Agent.md. You get the idea. That's your global rule. So Kiro just calls it the steering documents. It's any kind of markdown that you have in the .kiro/steering folder. So it's very similar to like a .claude folder if you have used Claude Code. So I'm going to keep making ties to other coding agents as I explain things here, because I am assuming that most of you guys have used some kind of AI coding assistant in the past, like Cursor, GitHub Copilot, Claude Code, that kind of thing. And so we have our global rules. And then in Kiro, we also have our prompts. This is the same as slash commands in Claude Code. These are the workflows that we document and we can invoke at any point when we are using Kiro. And in the template, I have quite a few prompts already defined for you to get you started, but these are the kinds of workflows to help you plan, implement, and validate your solution. And you're definitely encouraged to build your own in your submission, because that's part of what you include along with the application when you submit it. And then the last thing here, which I'm actually really excited to have this as a part of the submission, is a devlog. So not only do we want you to build your application and all of your steering docs and prompts, we also want you to document your process. Now, this might seem a little intimidating. It doesn't have to be that much. Like, don't worry, we're not expecting for some like super professionally written PRD of everything that you built, but we do want you to, as you're building out your app, just document things like your general timeline, decisions that you made, challenges that you encountered and how you overcame them. And you can definitely leverage Kiro to help you build the devlog. So like every time you implement a feature, you can ask it to help you update your devlog. So it doesn't have to be this massive task, but we want to see your thought process as you built your app as well, because that also especially helps us dive into the rubric and see like, okay, how well did you use the Kiro CLI? What is the code quality overall? Just seeing your thought process behind things like the architecture. So I'm excited to have this included as well. Now, as far as how to submit your application, there's going to be an announcement that I'll put out on Monday for exactly how to do that. And so remember, all you have to do is click on this button to join the hackathon. That'll add you into the Kiro Hackathon section of Dynamous. And so once you're here in Dynamous, you are officially registered. There's nothing more you have to do. Once you are here and you see this pinned post, oh, I forgot to pin it, didn't I? Oh, I need to pin this post. Okay, let me pin this post here. There we go, pinned to top. All right, so this post here has all the information you need. Once you're reading this, that means that you are officially registered. And it's probably confusing to people because it wasn't pinned, so that is my bad. So yes, once you're here, you are registered, and then I'll be making announcements here, which will also go to your inbox once you're registered, your email. And that there I'll have information for how you can submit, and then also how you can get your free credits. And so another important thing to call out here is that you don't have to pay anything to participate in the hackathon. On Monday, along with the submission instructions, I'll also have instructions for you for how you can get free Kiro credits applied to your account, so you don't have to pay for anything. And in the meantime, there still is a way to get a lot of free credits. So let me actually go to the pricing page for Kiro here. I'll show you that if you sign up right now, either using your social login or builder ID, then you get 500 bonus credits that you can use within 30 days. So the entire lifetime of the hackathon, you'll have these 500 credits that you can use. And credits go pretty far with Kiro. Like, it's not the case that one prompt is equal to one credit. And it depends a lot on how many tokens you use for each prompt. But I'll just tell you right now that I used Kiro for an entire day straight, like hundreds of thousands of tokens, and it costed me less than 50 credits. It was around like 46, 47 credits or something like that. And so 500 credits will take you extremely far. So you could literally get started building and trying out Kiro right now before the hackathon starts. And then when you claim your credits, you'll have way more than you need to compete in the hackathon. So making it really easy for you guys to participate. I don't expect you, and Kiro does not expect you to pay for one of their premium tiers just to compete. That would not be fair to you guys. That would kill a lot of the excitement. So definitely have that in mind for you guys as well. And yeah, also the last thing I want to call out, I'm not going to go through all the rules right now, but you can click on this link right here to view the complete rule set for the hackathon. Just in general, a couple of important things that I want to call out is that this is an individual hackathon. And so please don't form teams to work on the project. That's not allowed. It would not be fair to many people. It has to be original work during the competition, so you can't submit something that you already built. Now, there's a little bit of gray area here. Like if you just started working on something and you want to, for the most part, build it for the hackathon, you can do that. Like we're not going to be super nitpicky, and honestly, there's not a way for us to tell for sure. But it will be pretty obvious if you're just submitting something that you already built. Because that's part of the reason why you have to like have the devlog and have your documents for your steering and prompts. Like that has to be a part of your submission because we are building with the Kiro CLI for this hackathon. Now, one thing is you have to submit one project. You can only submit one, but you can work on many different ones during the hackathon if you want. That's actually a question that I got in the Dynamous community yesterday. So feel free to try building 5, 10, 20 proofs of concepts. I don't care how many you work on. You just have to submit one in the end, but you can try a lot of different ideas out and just see like what's working well, what you're able to build effectively with the Kiro CLI. And so I believe that's everything that I have to cover here for the hackathon. And so with that, I can get into the template that I have for you guys, which by the way, this GitHub template for getting started with the hackathon, I have that linked right here at the top of the page and then also right here. And then if you want to read the Kiro documentation for the Kiro CLI, I would definitely recommend doing that as well. Also, I took the documentation and I consolidated it into this kiroguide.md. And so there's a second markdown document. So I have like the main README. This is the instructions for leveraging the template. And then I also have this Kiro guide here. Now, I created this specifically for people that have used other coding agents in the past and they want to quickly get caught up to speed with how Kiro is different from other coding agents. What are the features of Kiro specifically? And so this is kind of like your master guide to really getting comfortable with Kiro fast so you can compete effectively in the hackathon. And so I talk about some things that makes Kiro different from other coding agents. I have an installation guide here. And then I cover all the core concepts. So the steering documents, these are our global rules that provide the main instructions for our coding agent, hence the word steering. And then I have this like collapsible chevron here, so you can dive into exactly what it looks like to set up your steering documents in your project. And this is a part of the template that I have for you as well. I'll cover in a second how with this template we can actually use Kiro to help you set up your steering documents right away before you even code anything. And then we have custom prompts. These are the reusable commands. Like I said earlier, it's like slash commands in Claude Code. So a deep dive in that. And then one thing that's actually pretty unique to Kiro is the idea of custom agents. And so you can define your different agents that, like it's just like JSON configuration like this, where you can define the exact tools that it has access to, the context that is loaded immediately. So sometimes different agents, you want it to have access to different files right away at the start of the conversation. Like maybe you have your backend specialist agent that you want to have access to certain files in the backend as that context loaded immediately. And then you might have your front end specialist. So these are all different agents that you can define. And you can also like pick the model that it uses. And so you can start Kiro CLI as one of these specialized agents. And so it's different from sub agents because when you create a custom agent in Kiro, you're defining the highest level agent that runs Kiro, the behavior for that agent. But when you think about sub-agents with something like Claude Code, that's more like the guy doing the grunt work, right? Like the main Claude Code calls into the sub-agent that might have specialized prompting, but this is like the highest level. So custom agents are very, very cool. And then I cover like all the different slash commands that you have to do things in Kiro that you can't really do in other coding agents. Like you can load in context on the fly. So like you can deterministically decide, I want to add this file as context into the conversation versus having to ask your coding agent to search for and read through a file. So that's very neat as well. And then there are a lot of other advanced features that I'm not going to get into right now, but there are some really cool things that are experimental right now with the Kiro CLI. And so, like knowledge management, having long term memory across your different sessions is something that's built into Kiro. In the past, I've had to use MCP servers for that, so I think this is super cool. You have something called tangent mode. And so you're able to have a save state in, or like a checkpoint in a conversation, so you can veer off to ask follow up questions and things like that without having to bloat your main context. So you can go on a tangent and then restore to that original checkpoint in the conversation to continue your development. So yeah, I think this is a really powerful feature as well, especially when the coding agent just finishes building something and you want to ask questions about why it built things the way it did. So you can build your own understanding, validate things yourself, and then go back to the primary conversation. And then there's also to-do lists. And so we've seen this with Claude Code for a long time now, but it's good to see Kiro adding this in as well, so that Kiro can actually manage its own task list internally. And then same thing with hooks. We've seen this for a long time as well. Just good to see all of these features being built into Kiro. And so, yeah, it's definitely one of the most feature-rich coding agents out there. I'm just more and more impressed with it every day. And I wouldn't say it's the perfect coding agent. I mean, really, none of them are the perfect coding agent right now. But it's definitely is kicking butt for me. And so as I've been preparing for this hackathon here, I have been using Kiro extremely extensively. Like I said, there was one day where I used it like literally the entire day. I used up 50 credits and I got really good results with it. And one thing I've noticed with Kiro is it's actually a lot faster than other coding agents. So it's a lot faster than Claude Code. Now, in the end, I feel like Claude Code maybe gives like slightly better results. Not by much though, because they're really just using the same models under the hood. But man, Kiro is a lot faster. And that was probably the most surprising thing to me when I first used it is, a lot of times like, if you guys have followed my channel, you know that I've used Claude Code pretty nonstop since like April or May of this year, of last year. And I got into this habit of sending off a request to go and do some research to create a plan, go through an implementation or some kind of validation. I'd send off the task and I would minimize the tab to work on something on my computer or go take a break to eat some food, take my dog outside, whatever it is, right? And I did that same thing with Kiro when I was working with it this week. And it got to the point where it would like finish things so fast that I was like just standing up out of my chair to go walk out of my room and it would be done. And it's like 2 minutes when usually that thing would take like 10 minutes before with other coding agents. And at first I was like, uh-oh, that means that it's not doing a good job, right? Like it's not doing enough web research. It's not thinking through things enough. But like all the reasoning tokens were there. It was doing all the deep web research when I needed it to, and the results were really good. So yeah, I've been loving Kiro. And so I'm excited for this hackathon. Like, yes, I'm working with AWS, and that is why Kiro is a requirement for this hackathon. But I am legitimately impressed. Like, it's a genuine thing. It would be it'd be a much different story if I was working with Microsoft and this was a GitHub Copilot hackathon. I don't think that GitHub Copilot is ahead of the curve like Kiro and Cursor and Claude Code, so I wouldn't be very excited for that. But I am legitimately excited for this hackathon here. And so yeah, that is the Kiro guide. And then going to the main README here, this is where I dive into the quick start. Because the thing that I want to avoid is I don't want you to come into the hackathon and be like, where do I even start, right? Like I've never used Kiro before. Maybe I'm newer to AI coding. I don't even know how to start my project. And so I'm getting rid of that problem for you. Like, honestly, I firmly believe that this template is going to make it so easy for you to get started that you can't even help yourself, but just start building something for the hackathon because the barrier to entry here is so low. And it's thanks to this setup wizard that I have built. And so all you have to do to get started is you have to obviously have Git installed on your machine and the Kiro CLI. Once you do, you can clone the repository with this command. And then once you are within the Kiro CLI, you can run this quick start command. And this is going to ask you questions about what you want to build, basically guiding you through setting up the feature requirements for your project. And then it's going to take your conversation and it's going to create the steering documents for you. And so I basically, in the .kiro/steering folder, I have these placeholders. So they're kind of just like templates to be filled out from the conversation you have with the setup wizard. And so you talk to Kiro, you establish what you want to build, the target users, key features. Like it'll ask you questions to guide you through all of that, and I'll show you a live demo in a little bit. And then it'll fill out all of these steering documents. So you have that context automatically loaded into Kiro going forward. So every time you start a new conversation, it knows exactly what you want to build, why you want to build it, what the architecture looks like, and things like that. That's the goal that we have with global rules, and this wizard helps you build all of that automatically. And then it also helps you understand the different commands that we have here. Or in Kiro, they are called prompts, right? Like these are our reusable workflows. And this is the part that I was telling you earlier where like this is already a gold mine of resources that I have for you for this hackathon. Because each one of these commands I have actually taken directly from the Dynamous agentic coding course. And so if you didn't know, the agentic coding course is something that I completed at the very end of last year. So this is one of the resources in the Dynamous community where I show you how to build reliable and repeatable systems for getting consistent results with AI coding assistance. And man, this course has just been a blast to make, and it's being very well received in the community. So also, if you're interested in learning how to like really build good systems for AI coding, definitely check out the course here. I'll actually put a link to this in the chat as well. And then if you're watching the video later, I will also have this in the description. So if you want to go through the course, this will also definitely help you compete in the hackathon. And so, I mean, there are a lot of different ways to learn how to build with AI coding assistance effectively, but this is definitely, I firmly believe one of the best ones. And so people that are already in the Dynamous community, they might have a leg up. And so definitely come check this out if you want to learn how to build well with coding agents and apply that to the hackathon as well. But a lot of the commands that I have shown how to use in the course, I am providing directly as a gift to you in this template here. And so, for example, the prime command, I use this every single time I start a new conversation with any AI coding assistant because it's basically a set of instructions, right? Like these prompts are just workflows. It's a set of instructions for how to analyze the existing code base to get caught up to speed with what we're building, what we have already built. And then we have the commands to plan new features, execute on them, as in actually write out the code, and then we have the code review command. And these are like the 4 core commands that I use no matter what I am building. And so typically how I'll work, and this is sort of built into the quick start wizard with all these prompts, is I will take a project that I want to create and I'll define my initial scope of work. This is often called a PRD. And then I'll break it down into individual bite-sized features that I want to build out. Because you never want to give too much to a coding agent at the same time. It doesn't matter if it's Kiro, Claude Code, Cursor, whatever. If you give it too much to do it at once, it's going to totally botch it. And that's when you get those really inconsistent results with coding agents. And so you split your larger project into a bunch of different individual feature implementations. And then you go through all of these commands for each one of them systematically. So I'll take the first feature, like setting up the initial structure for my code base, building out the first tool for my agent, whatever that might be, and I'll prime, so I'll understand the existing code base. I'll go through a deep research and thinking session with the coding agent to plan my feature, and then I'll build out the code and have the coding assistant actually do some self-validation as well. That's actually built into these 2 commands too. And then I'll do the code review at the end. And then after everything looks good to me, then I will go back to the start of that loop and I'll continue with the next feature going through these commands again. So again, I use these commands for every single feature implementation that I do, no matter the project, no matter the coding agent that I am using. And the wizard will actually walk through what that looks like. And so this is kind of the core development workflow. Right, like you run the quick start. This is the one-time thing to set up your project. And again, I'll show a live demo of this in a little bit. And then for your development cycle, like I said, it's kind of a loop here. Every feature that you're building, every new session with your coding agent, you use Prime to understand the code base, plan your feature, and then you implement and review. And then for a part of this hackathon, after you do the code review, this is also where you should update your devlog. And so you can update your devlog at the end of every loop, every time you implement a new feature. I mean, it doesn't have to be like that, but that is my general recommendation for you. And then also at the end of every loop is your opportunity to evolve your system. This is also something that I talk a lot about in the Dynamous agentic coding course. Whenever there's challenges that you face, you can document it in your devlog and then think about what you might want to update in your steering documents and your prompts. Like, how do you want to change your workflow to avoid those challenges that you encountered in that feature loop? And this is really powerful because your system gets more and more powerful over time because every challenge is an opportunity, right? It's a win-win situation. If the loop works perfectly and your feature worked perfectly, that's great. If it didn't, and there's a lot of tweaking that you had to do and working with Kiro to fix things, then you can literally ask it like, okay, based on all these challenges that we encountered, how can I evolve my steering documents or my prompts to make it so that that problem doesn't happen again? And that's kind of what really has gotten me to the point where I trust my systems very deeply with a lot of my engineering. I delegate most, if not all, of the coding to my agents now because I've built up this system and I've refined it. Every single time I encounter a problem, I'm evolving my system, getting to the point where I can trust it more and more. And then there's one last command. This is like the last golden nugget that I have for you in this template here. Is I have a prompt, a Kiro prompt that I built for you called Code Review Hackathon. And so this is going to perform a comprehensive review of your project under the lens of the judging criteria. And so going back to the main page here, we have this judging criteria that I already went over. The command is actually going to give you a score for all of these things. Now, obviously, you have to take that with a huge grain of salt because the coding agent might evaluate things a lot differently than I might or an AWS guest judge. But it can give you a good idea, especially of anything you might be missing. Like, oh, you forgot to update your devlog for the last 5 features you built. Or, oh, you know what? I think that this is a good application, but there's not anything very unique here. So maybe it could be encouragement to you to build out some unique feature on top of your app, right? Like those kind of things that can bring up kind of like a quick sanity check to make sure that you're really hitting on everything for the judging criteria. So that's another resource I really wanted to have for you. Because again, I want it to be very easy for you to get started. I want to have something defined for you here for how you can go through the workflow with Kiro. And then also how you can really validate things at the end. Now, you don't have to use any of this. If you want to say, you know, screw you, Cole, I don't care about your core development cycle recommendation here. I want to do my entire own system. Like, please feel free to do that. You don't have to use any of these commands here. But I will say that I've worked really hard to build these out. It's something that I use personally every single time I'm working with coding agents. And if you're a bit unsure what it looks like to have your own system, like this is just a fantastic starting point. So treat it as a recommendation, but yeah, it works wonders for me. And then I also cover the rubric in this README here, which I've already hit on. I've talked about the required documentation as well, but I just want to cover this again in the README here because it is really important that you include this in your submission. And trust me, the Code Review Hackathon command will let you know if you don't have a well-defined enough README or a devlog. And the last thing that I want to say for the README and the devlog is there's a lot of freedom for how you can structure both of these. I don't want to be like super strict on here are the sections you have to have for the README, or you have to update your devlog every single time you make a new feature. Like it's totally up to you. And especially for the devlog, you can use Kiro to help you maintain it. And so a big hint that I have for you here, if you're paying attention, this is really important. If you want to, you can create a Kiro prompt to help you update your log based on what's happening. So it could be a command that you run at the end of every feature you implement, that kind of thing. And so I purposely did not include this in the template because the Kiro directory, like the steering documents, the prompts, like this is a part of your submission. And so I don't want you to just take all of the commands that I have for you in the template and just never change it. Like I want you to optimize things to your use case, build your own commands. And so just having to like build the command yourself to help you update your devlog, that's sort of part of the challenge to you. Because I want to make sure there are definitely some things that you build yourself, for the context and commands that you have for Kiro. And so there is a lot to get you started. That's like kind of like the last thing that I list out in the README here. And I even have examples of what it looks like for a README or a devlog. So again, you can customize it as much as you want, but I'm just trying to make it as easy as possible for you to just understand generally what we expect from the submissions here. And so like, for example, the devlog right here, just again, simple markdown for everything. It's not complicated. For the development log, like here's week 1, what we built, timeline, challenges encountered, week 2, week 3, right? Because the CLI, or not the CLI, the hackathon goes on for about 3 weeks here. And so just like a really realistic example of what the log could look like. And it's 156 lines long. Yours will probably be a lot longer as you're building something more complete. This is just a basic example, but you get the idea. And the length is really up to you as well. And then I also got the README example here. So yeah, that is pretty much everything that we've got for the template. So remember, links in the description for joining the hackathon. You just have to click this button to register and you'll be in the Dynamous community here. And then I'll also link to this template to get you started. So stay tuned for Monday the 5th, more announcements around resources for you, getting those credits to you, how you can submit. And so again, I want to be very clear. Once you're here in the Kiro Hackathon section of Dynamous, you are registered, you are good to go. And we already have 200 people registered. It's actually cool. We're at exactly 200 right now. So very exciting. This is going to be a fantastic event. I cannot wait to see what you guys build. Like honestly, that's the most exciting thing for me is just all of the ideas that I get to see you guys build out, and I get to evaluate all of that. It's going to be really fun for me. I did a hackathon last year, and that actually was the most fun part, is just seeing what you guys built. And so, yeah, winners will be announced on the live stream on February 7th, so stay tuned for that. So that's everything that I got here. That'll be the end of the YouTube video. And then for the rest of the live stream here, I will go through Q&A and also do the live demonstration of working with the template. So definitely check out the live stream if you're watching the video and you want to see the rest of what I got for you. All right. Cool. So that's where I'm going to cut the video there. And then for all you lovely folks right now on the stream, let's go through the template here. But before we do this, I think it'll be a good time to take a break for questions. So I'm probably not going to scroll all the way up to the top. But I will go a little bit ways up and try to hit on some of the questions that I missed just as I was going through everything. And I'm going to try to focus on the questions that I think would apply to the most people as well, because I want to make sure that I don't like spend an hour on questions here. All right, so in 1 month, I burned through at least 2,500 credits. Yep, so that sounds about right. I mean, that's in the end, like the free credits that you guys get from registering and what you'll get as a part of the hackathon, it will be about that many credits. And the hackathon only goes for 3 weeks, so you're going to be able to go through a lot of coding. Will you share my code, or can I keep closed coded after the competition? Yep, so that's one thing I want to cover. There's actually another question on this as well. Who is getting the IP? Right, so kind of related questions here. The intellectual property is yours. We will not be claiming any of your submissions. And so this is actually in the rules as well. If we go to intellectual property, you retain full ownership of your submission. And so in order to submit, you are granting us access to showcase your project and create case studies, display your work in the winner announcements. That does not mean revealing all of your code to the public though. So it's you retain full ownership, and the code is going to be private unless you allow us to make it public. And so for the people that win the hackathon, I will be asking who is willing to open source their projects, but you don't have to agree to do so. Because I totally understand that if you're competing in the hackathon, like trust me, I understand this, guys. If you're competing in the hackathon, you're dedicating a lot of time. And yeah, there's a great prize pool and everything, but still, you might want to take this and turn it into a full SaaS application or a personal project, or you might be wanting to turn it into something that you build for a client. Like literally whatever that is, I totally respect that. And so you don't have to open source the code, and it remains your IP. But it's a very, very good question though. So I appreciate you asking. That's something that I probably should have covered in the video, but that's all good because I'll be sure to be clear on that in announcements. And then also, I believe I already have this listed in the pin post here in the community. All right, and while I go through questions here, I'll just well no I shouldn't go full frame. I could go full frame here, but then I need to like just flip back as soon as I want to like show something on my screen. So I'll just go ahead and stay on the screen share here. All right, I think that was the time when they launched Kiro ID. I hope they give at least 2,000. Yep, so I'm hoping for that as well. And so stay tuned for Monday. I think it will be 2,000 credits. That's what they told me initially. But the whole Amazon team is actually, well, most of the Amazon team is out of office until the 5th. It's pretty standard. A lot of corporate companies, the employees will take the first part of January off as well. So that's why I unfortunately don't have like the code available for you guys right now to claim your credits. But like I said, once you join the hackathon, you're registered and you're here in the community, then I'll have the announcement for you with that on Monday. Using Kiro the entire day and using only 50 credits is not really possible. Well, yeah, I mean, it's not like I was like actually sending in requests for like, 12 hours straight. It was on and off, but like, I mean, I built a full application. Actually, I used Kiro to help me build this entire template. And and one of the things that I did is I actually created an automation to pull all the documentation and consolidate it and touch it up. So I pulled like the entire CLI documentation with Crawl for AI, and like that was part of what I built as well. So I used it a lot. Like I know that like if you guys are really grinding out the hackathon, you could use more than 50 credits in a day. But the point still stands that it's like 50 credits, 100 credits. Like it'll actually take you pretty far. Like a single feature implementation will definitely be less than 50 credits. And it's not like you're going to need like dozens and dozens of feature implementations for your project for the hackathon. I mean, you definitely could do that if you want, but yeah, I mean, like these days, coding agents can handle a good chunk of work for a single feature implementation. How much am I getting paid for this broadcast? I'm getting paid nothing. So again, I was clear at front, and I'll say it again. AWS working with me for the hackathon, all they're doing monetarily is the prize pool for you guys. I'm not getting paid anything to do this. I am like legitimately just hosting this for you guys. And I mean, if you want to like know my real motivation, it is like I said, legitimately like having something really fun for you guys, and then also just getting more engagement in the community. Like right, like as you guys are here participating in the hackathon, I hope that you see that a lot of the other things that we have going on in the community is something that you guys want to participate in as well. But like they're not paying me anything to do this. I mean, you could say that like they're paying me very indirectly by supplying the prize pool because this is not a prize pool that I would financially be able to give for you guys myself, and so that's why I'm working with them. The CLI is not available for Windows. That is correct, unfortunately, but luckily you can use WSL. And so within the installation guide that I have for the Kiro guide right here, for Windows, you can. Oh, I don't actually have it included here. That's a bummer because um, I had instructions at some point. I must have removed it on accident, but I had instructions at one point for how you can install Ubuntu through WSL on Windows, and then you can use the Kiro CLI through that. So that's actually how I'm going to be doing it. Man, I thought I had that there. That's a bummer. I'll have to update that, but I'll include instructions here for how you can install Ubuntu WSL on Windows, and then you can install the Kiro CLI there. So yeah, like I said, that's what I've done myself. Curious what people's experience is with Kiro versus anti-gravity. Yeah, so I mean, I think that Claude is the best model. So I actually get the better performance with Kiro because I'm using it with Claude. But anti-gravity is really good. I think Gemini 3 is the best model for building front-end applications. But then as far as just like general coding, Claude is still the king. Claude Opus 4.5 in my mind is the best large language model for coding. And you can use it in Kiro, right? Like generally Claude is the model that you use with Kiro. Really recommend the course. It's a gold mine. Well, I appreciate that a lot. Thank you very much. Yeah, the agentic coding course is something that I have put an extreme amount of effort into for the last half of last year. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm honestly pretty proud of it. I think it turned out really, really well. I firmly believe that is the best resource on the internet to learn how to build reliable and repeatable systems around AI coding assistance. Like I say right here, being able to ship solo what used to take entire teams, and like that is not an exaggeration. So yeah, there's a lot of inconsistencies that people have with AI coding assistance, but when you're able to build a system that's constantly evolving, like I said earlier, every mistake or bug is an opportunity to improve your system. You get to the point where it's just incredible the results you can get, the kinds of things that you can actually build reliably. And now I don't mean that you take out human in the loop or that you vibe code or anything like that. You still want to be a part of the process, but all of the actual coding you delegate to your coding agent, and then you're just a part of the planning and the validating. So you're kind of sandwiching what you delegate entirely to the coding agent. That's what I teach in the course. And so, again, I'll put a link to this in the chat if you guys are interested. Definitely would help you as you compete in the hackathon as well to go through the content here. You definitely could go through that all in the month of January as you're competing in the hackathon. So, yeah, and I appreciate it again. All right, let's see what other questions we got. Okay, so there's a couple of questions that I saw that like disappeared because unfortunately there's only like the top 25 messages that I can see in my window. So if there's any questions that I didn't get to, sorry about that. You can always repost it if you want, but also I won't have time to get through like literally every question. All right. Let's see, what else do we got here? Windows can run on WSL. Correct, yep. Yep, Kiro runs on Windows via WSL. Yep, that's what I do. So if you register in Kiro, you get 500 credits. Then when you event starts, you get like 2,000 more additional. Exactly, yep. So trust me, you guys will be covered. You don't have to pay for Kiro. I am not getting paid by Kiro. I totally understand that there's people that come in and maybe are trolling in the chat a little bit saying like, oh, how much are you getting paid? It is a legitimate question though, but yeah, answer is 0. You have to pay 0, I'm getting paid 0. This is really just like an awesome event for us to have a good time and build cool stuff. And there's not like, secondary motivation for anything. Like AWS is not trying to get you to buy Kiro for the event. I mean, they obviously have a hope that you'll fall in love with Kiro, but I mean that's obvious, right? Like, of course, that's their hope, but it doesn't mean that it takes away from this just being like a very open-ended, free thing for you to have a good time and potentially win something pretty big. Do you have to be a Dynamous member to compete? Nope, you do not. No. So when you register here, if you're not a member of Dynamous, you will only have access to this section, but this is all that you need to compete. So it is completely open to the public and it is free to participate. Can I use the template in the IDE and subagents? Because I don't want to use WSL for installing the CLI. Yes, if you want to, you can use the IDE. Everything that we have in the CLI is going to apply to the IDE as well. And so the template, you can definitely use it. I think there might be a slightly different way to set up the steering documents. I haven't used the IDE for a bit now because I generally prefer CLI. So when Kiro released it, I just dove right into using it. So I don't know, like based on updates and my memory is a bit foggy on like how I set up everything in the IDE back when I used it, but it is extremely similar. I already have a Kiro paid account. Do I have to create a new one? So for the 500 credits that you get when signing up, you would have to create a new one, but for claiming the 2,000 credits, or sorry, I shouldn't say 2,000 is not totally confirmed, but it'll be around that much. Claiming those credits for the hackathon, you can use an existing account. So yes, we are getting credits for the hackathon. That is correct. Yep. Do we need to host it? I assume you mean the application you build for the submission. And the answer is no, you don't have to host anything. So there doesn't have to be like some live running demo. You just have to submit the source code to us so that we can judge the hackathon. So again, we won't share the source code with the world, and it does remain your intellectual property, but you do submit the code for us to judge. And then your README. So again, one of the requirements that we have for the documentation here, the README, well, I don't have that here, but right here. So that's one of the things that you have to include. And that should have very clear instructions for how we can run the application ourselves. And so as a part of the judging process, we will go through the README and go through the kind of quick start that you have defined at the top of the README. If that doesn't work well and we can't get the application up and running, obviously that would be a ding for a couple of different things here. All right. Who cares? It's free. Try it out. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Just have fun with this, and it's yeah, you learn something no matter what. You can win something. I mean, it's just an awesome thing. I'm excited for this. Right, that's very true. Your code being open isn't the risk. Not having a business model is. I mean, in the age of AI coding, where it's so easy to build anything, that's very, very true. Like your moat, right? Like what makes you stand out and gives you protection. It's never really the actual code anymore. It's your distribution. It's the business model. It's the vision that you have for what you're building. That matters a lot more than what you've actually built because it's so easy to replicate anything these days. And I hope that you guys realize that as you go through the hackathon here. I think because of how powerful coding assistants are and how much I really believe that this quick start template will help you, I think you guys will be surprised how fast you can build something really awesome for our event throughout January. So I'm excited for that. Let's see. Can the system contain copyrighted content? I guess it depends. Well, I mean, like I would stray away from that no matter what I'm building, right? Like I don't really know why you'd want to have copyrighted content. But yeah, I would like play it safe, right? Like if you were, I would say think about it this way, like even if it's something that you're never going to actually deploy out to the world, it is your intellectual property. You should treat it with respect and not build anything that could, get you sued if you were to, or a copyright infringement if you were to like actually publish it. So just be smart about it. But yeah, I mean, I'll leave that up to you to kind of make that judgment call. All right. That's so cool, cool. Thanks for organizing. You're very welcome. It's my pleasure. I'm so excited for this. I know I've said it like 10 times already, but it's very true. I don't even want to know how much time and energy you put into this, but you can see how well thought out everything is. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, this hackathon has been a lot of work. And I also put a lot of work into the hackathon that I hosted about a year ago from this time. And so I luckily was able to reuse a lot of just like my planning and how I thought about the rules and the judging criteria and everything. And so, yeah, I mean, that doesn't mean that it hasn't been an insane amount of work this time around, but it is my second hackathon, which definitely helps. A lot of good lessons and takeaways that I had from that previous one that I'm applying to this one. So I like to consider myself a lifelong learner, and so every experience for me, I try to extract as many takeaways as I can. And so, yeah, definitely the last hackathon, the good and the bad from that is guiding a lot of the prep that I did for this for you guys. And I think it's turned out really well. Oh, okay. I appreciate the kind words a lot. Just look at the template you prepared for us. It's incredible what you've accomplished in the last few months. Thanks for the opportunity, Cole. Happy to be a part of it. That means the world to me. Thank you very much. And yeah, I put a lot of work into the template for sure. Because honestly, that was one of the things that I learned from the last hackathon. Is a lot of people told me like, Cole, this is fantastic that you're putting on this hackathon, but man, it's just like kind of hard for me to like get started. And so like people wouldn't submit just because they couldn't get over that initial hurdle of beginning a project. And so I just want to make that as easy as possible for you guys. Because like I said, trust me, if you go through this and you spend just like 10 minutes going through the quick start here, and it's only going to take you like 2 minutes to like get everything into your local system and getting the Kiro CLI installed. Like it's super, super low barrier to entry. Like if you just give yourself like 10, 15 minutes to go through this, you're going to be set up, ready to go, and you're going to not be able to help yourself, but just like dive in to start building. And it's addicting in a good way. It's really good because you're building something awesome. And yeah, I think like compared to the last hackathon, it's just so much easier to get started now. Thanks for being genuine. Yeah, you're very, very welcome. Can we use other models or IDE if we get stuck at something? That's a good question. So I do generally encourage people to play around with different coding agents. You find one that works best for you, and generally that's what you use the most. But I'm not going to tell you that you have to use the Kiro CLI for absolutely everything. And so it's not in the rules that you have to use only the Kiro CLI. it just has to like very much be your primary driver. But if there's something that it's getting caught on for whatever reason, and you're like, oh, I just want to like use Gemini 3 and anti-gravity really quick to like help me with some front end stuff, because maybe it does better than Claude Opus 4.5 at some front end stuff. Like, you can definitely feel free to do so. Just keep in mind that if you start doing that too much, it's going to be pretty obvious, because your steering docs won't be as evolved, your dev log won't be as evolved. And so, yeah, like for the most part, definitely just stick with Kiro. And it has to be very obvious. Like, that's why it's a core part of the judging criteria here, that like you use Kiro effectively. But that is a very good question, though. Where can I make my subscription? Didn't find the link. If you're referring to Kiro, then you can make your subscription just by installing the CLI, because then you'll run the Kiro login command, and you'll be able to sign in with your builder ID. And then I think, so they say they have social logins, but that doesn't work in the CLI right now for some reason. So I actually brought that directly to their attention. But anyway, you sign up like directly in the CLI, and that's how you register. Now, if you're referring to your Dynamous subscription, then you can get to that by going. I'll put this link in the chat one more time here for you. And so again, it is not required that you join Dynamous to compete in the hackathon, but if you want to go through the agentic coding course and learn how to build reliable and repeatable systems for getting good results with AI coding assistance, then I would highly recommend joining Dynamous. And this will take you right to the link to register. But again, not a requirement for the hackathon. All right, if used Windows and have used Ubuntu WSL, it works. Yes, it does. And I'll show you guys in the live demo I'll do in a bit that's exactly what I'm using, and it works really well. Anti-gravity will corrupt your files. I've not had that happen myself, but if that actually happened to you, then that is kind of scary. Huh. Yeah, exactly. AWS gets engagement. We get another framework. That's right. Yeah, that's the benefit. Like, it's not like they're paying me. It's not like they're expecting everyone to pay them. But engagement is always good, even if it's most people just using it for free and moving on after the hackathon. But definitely, like I said, I'm legitimately impressed with Kiro myself, and I think a lot of you guys will be as you use it as well. Like, just very genuine. And yes, correct. You can use the IDE, but encouraged to use the CLI. Is there a command for YOLO mode in the Kiro CLI? Yes, there is actually. So one of the things that I have here in the Kiro guide is I actually call out right away that after you start the Kiro CLI, if you want to, you can set up the skip permission prompts. And so you do that with /tools trust all. So you're using the /tools command, and then trust all is your argument. This is the same as, like in Cursor, you toggle like the auto mode so it doesn't ask for your permission for anything. In Claude Code, this is like this dangerously skip permissions flag. This is how you do YOLO mode in the Kiro CLI. And I'll actually do that for the live demo in a bit here. Because I don't want, like, I want to be able to like let Kiro run and pay attention to you guys in the chat. And so I'm not going to be giving it permission for every little command it wants to run. So I'll be doing this myself when we do our demo here. All right. Let's see what else we got. All right, so this is a really good question. If we use the getting started template prompts and commands from the repo as is to complete the hackathon, will we get fewer credits during validation? So that's a good question, and the answer is, if you really want to have the highest application quality and usage of Kiro and innovation, then you would actually customize the steering documents and commands to your use case. And the biggest reason that I want to encourage that, and like it will actually help your score when you optimize things, is because you are always going to be getting the best results when you take a workflow, like either from someone else or that you built yourself, and you customize it to your specific code base. And that's like a huge recommendation that I have for you guys just in general, is if you're taking something like the BMAN method or the GitHub spec kit or PRP, or even your own custom system that you built at some point, it is always optimal to apply it specifically to your code base. Like, you'll change the workflow depending on the type of application that you're building and like what you have defined in your commands and in your global rules. And so definitely feel free to use everything as a starting point, and you can go pretty far just with that, but I would encourage you to build a couple of your own commands, try to optimize things. And also for the steering documents, just as you go through the quick start here, keep in mind that it's asking you the questions to customize the steering documents to your project. So that part is like honestly kind of taken care of for you already. When you go through the quick start, it will kind of create those steering documents that are custom to your project. And so you are still encouraged to continue to optimize those, right? Like that's the system evolution. You encounter a problem in your code, and there's probably going to be quite a few opportunities to make your steering documents more aligned with your vision or like the good architecture, like whatever that might be. But it is going to be customized to your project from the get-go. It's more the commands that are generic at first that you might want to evolve. Oh, donation from Kubi. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you very much, Kubi. I believe the only pay for Cole is from viewers' donations. That's right. Yeah, thank you for hosting this event. You're very welcome, and thank you for the donation. That means a lot. Does the Kiro CLI support powers, or is that only for the IDE? That is a really good question. I think that it's only for the IDE right now, but they're going to be adding it to the CLI. Because if you go to the IDE documentation, they have the powers here, and then for a CLI, they don't. So for those of you who don't know, powers are, it's basically like the Claude plugin system, where people can package up their steering documents and prompts and MCP server configuration and like have that available in a marketplace for you to pull into your project to use right out of the box. It's very cool. In fact, my quick start here is basically a power that I just have more of a custom way for you to pull into your and start your code base for the hackathon. Now, the reason they have it just in the IDE right now is because it's very UI driven, right? Like the marketplace where you get to explore the different powers and install them, there needs to be some kind of UI. So I believe that's why they haven't built it into the CLI. Because if you were to build powers into the CLI, there would have to be like a secondary website, right? Like kiro.dev/powers would have to like, you'd have to be able to add it to the CLI. So it seems like they're kind of already working on that. Like I can view the marketplace on the site, not just in the IDE. So it'd have to be like, click this button, and then you would choose between either the CLI or the IDE. But right now, I don't think you can do the CLI. But this is really cool, by the way, because it's basically like a bunch of different context engineering templates that are built out for you. So like here's one to build a backend with Supabase. So there's like steering documents and context and commands that like help you work with Supabase specifically, or working with building a Strands agent from AWS, or working with Neon. Like all these platforms that I cover a ton on my channel and in the Dynamous course as well. Figma, Postman, very, very cool. Yeah, so I wish they had powers in the CLI, but I bet they're coming soon. All right. Can we get a refund on the course if we don't like it, or is there any trying out? So there is a refund policy for Dynamous. If you want to scroll down all the way to the bottom here, I cover that in that FAQ. What if it's not for me? 5-day money back guarantee. So feel free to try it, and if it's not for you, just let me know. You just message me in the community. Nice and simple. All right. Great initiative, Cole. Looking forward to learn and practice and maybe win. Haha, fingers crossed. Great combination with your AI coding course. Thank you, Duncan. I appreciate it a lot. Yeah. Google Cole AI and you're the first video that shows up. Oh, yeah? Let's check this out. Google. I'll do Cole AI. All right. My Google result is different. Oh, no, because these are sponsored results. Well, I guess I don't come up first for myself, but I'm pretty close, I guess. What is this? I got a LinkedIn thing. Oh, there's literally a website called Cole.ai. That's funny. Interesting. All right. Yeah, well, there's a lot of like keywords. Like if you go, I'll go to Google again. If you go and you search like local AI, then I am one of the first things that comes up. Like there we go. Here's my local AI masterclass. And if you go to videos, usually, yeah, like I pop up really quick there. And if we go to images, I think there's like, yeah, like here's one of my thumbnails for a different local AI video. So there are certain keywords that I hit on. N8N AI agents. I don't know if I would do N8. N8N I might not hit on anymore because I haven't done as much N8N content recently. But there are a lot of keywords that if you Google me or you Google it, you'll find me. I'm trying to think what else, like Pydantic AI agents might come up. Well, we got Dave at the top, but then there's me. So you find me for certain keywords. Yeah. So anyway. But how do we know which system will the judging be on? Mac, OS, Windows, or Linux? So your solution should work no matter the operating system. I would say that you wouldn't deserve full points for application quality if it is limited to a certain OS. Now, of course, we're going to be quite understanding. Not everyone has the ability to test their application on different operating systems, but as a part of your code review, you should be looking out for things like the way that the file paths are handled that might only work on a certain OS. And so I will say that the applications will be tested on primarily Windows, at least for me. But I will also take the application and try it in WSL if it doesn't work for whatever reason. So I'll be lenient, but generally any kind of application you build, it should work on any operating system. Because you have to expect it. Well, okay, here's the other thing I'll say. Because kind of the easiest solution to this is just to rely on Docker containers. If you containerize your application, that means that you get to pick the operating system in which the application runs because you have the image that you choose from at the top of your Docker file. And so then that way it doesn't actually matter the host of the judge if they are Mac or Windows or Linux, because as long as they have Docker, and you can have that as a requirement, then you're good to go. Like I'll build the container, I'll run the container, and it's going to work exactly how it does on your machine. So do I need to start a fresh project, or can I use a project that I have been building solely with Kiro? So you do have to start fresh because you wouldn't really be able to have a devlog unless you were to try to do that retroactively, like go back and document challenges you had before. But I don't think that would work very well. Now you could build a part of the project depending on the kind of app it is, and that component would be your submission. So I'll leave it up to you. If you want to really try to retroactively do stuff, you could, but I think it would just end up being kind of obvious in the submission. The quality might not be there for your documentation. So I think I'll leave it at that there. All right, where can I subscribe for the hackathon? Yeah, so let me put this link in the chat one more time I'll probably do it again later, but I'll put the link in the chat again for the hackathon. So you go here, you click on join the hackathon, and then I'll add you into the Kiro hackathon section right here. This is how you register. So once you're here and you see this pinned post in the primary hackathon channel, that means that you are registered. And so you'll get also all of the announcements that I'll put out in the next few weeks here for resources and the link to get your credits with the code. Reminders like, oh, you got 1 week left for the hackathon. You'll get all of those announcements here and in your email as well. And you can always opt out if you need to. Cool to see you coming up in the game, bro. Been learning from you for a year. I appreciate it a lot. Yeah, it's crazy to think that I've had my YouTube channel for a year and a half now. And so it was about July of 2024 that I started my channel. And man, it has been a journey. It's crazy. This is my second hackathon. I have 2 courses in the Dynamous community now. I started the community. I have over 200 videos on my channel now. And many, many more to come. Like I said, I'm keeping up with the content. I'm actually going to be live streaming a lot more, which I'm really excited for. And as well, I'm going to be creating content from the live streams like I just did for this one earlier with that portion of explaining everything that I'll turn into a video as well. So yeah, I'm excited for the future for YouTube and then everything I got going on in Dynamous as well. because yeah, I'm gonna be continuing to do like really cool course improvements and workshops and things in Dynamous, just as like the place to go a lot deeper for everything that I cover on the channel. So I always say that like I give an insane amount of value on YouTube, but even more in Dynamous, right? And like they both will continue to be top priorities for me. So yeah, let me go back to the chat here. I'll go through one more question, and then I will do the live demonstration of the quick start here. And then I can take more questions as we're actually going through the quick start. Let's see. Do the judges need to run the application, or is it just reviewing the code? So, good question, Tony. We do need to be able to run the app. It is important that we can, because that's going to be part of the application quality, like how, and the documentation, right? Like how easy it is to read through everything, get it up and running. And so you can depend on third-party systems like the OpenAI API, but it can't be an expectation that we're going to pay for a new service. Like LLMs are very like, yeah, you could have an expectation there. So I know it's a little bit of a gray area, like what defines a standard thing versus something that we'd have to buy new. I would say that like you relying on LLMs, that is super standard. Now, if you want to, you can as a part of your submission, and like when I announce the submission and like how you do that, I'll clarify this more. I just don't want to get too in the weeds right now. But like you can also like give an API key if you want. I know that like many people might not be comfortable doing that at all, but if you're using like this third-party service that's like super out there and like no one's gonna have that set up, then you can definitely like provide the key, and of course we're gonna like barely use it. And so, or you can like have a way to sort of have like mock information so you can run the application fully without having to set that up. Yeah, so I will say that like you could just submit it in a way where you say like, hey, you can't run certain parts of it, or you can't run it without this key. You wouldn't get the best score. And so maybe it would take a little bit of creativity there to think about like, okay, if I have this dependency outside of like something really basic like an LLM API key, or like requiring Docker, just like getting creative about how you could like make it so it's only part of the application that can't run, or you would like supply the API key, that kind of thing. All right, and then yeah, there's one more question I wanted to cover really quick, and then I'll get into the quick start here. Can we include copyrighted content of a book, website, company, assuming this is for personal use? Yeah, like if it's something that you're comfortable including in your application, because like it really is only going to be for personal use, I would say go for it, because we're not going to like publish the code or publish the full application or anything. Like we might like showcase it versus like actually publishing it. So I would say just like if it's something that you'd be comfortable like building for yourself and including for yourself, it's totally good. Like I said, I'll leave that up to your judgment for sure. All right. Very good. So let's get into the quick start here. I'm excited for this. This is kind of like the last big thing that I got for you guys. It'll take a somewhat decent amount of time here to go through the quick start, but I want to show you guys a live example of what it looks like to start a project for the hackathon and use Kiro. And then as we're waiting for Kiro to do things, I will take questions in the chat, so we'll still have a good time for Q&A. But like I said, Kiro goes pretty quick, so I won't have an insane amount of time. Yeah, I'll definitely still take like all the top questions. So, all right. Going to the README here, all we have to do to get started is clone this template. And so git clone command, I obviously already have this cloned on my computer. And so I'll go ahead and open that right here. So I'm gonna actually close out of this and clear my session, because I am using WSL right here for Windows. And so by the way that you install WSL on Windows is you go to the Windows store, the Microsoft store, and then you just search for Ubuntu. And then you can install the Ubuntu, like it literally is just called Ubuntu. There's a couple different options here. I just installed the first one that doesn't have a version number on it. So this is installed, and then once it is installed, then within your terminal or your app bar down here, I can just search for Ubuntu, and then I can start it up. And so this will start up a terminal outside of my IDE, or what you can do in your IDE, like VS Code or Cursor, Windsurf, like whatever your IDE is, there's typically an option to launch a Ubuntu WSL terminal. And so the way that I got to this is I'm in my IDE. I'm using Windsurf, but I'm really just using it as VS Code. You do Control J, or if you're on Mac, you do Command J. That opens up the terminal view here. And then you click on the drop down to launch a specific profile. And Ubuntu WSL should be automatically available for you to select as an option. Now, you'll probably have to restart your IDE after you install Ubuntu, but other than that, it should be available automatically. So that is how I'm able to operate in a Linux environment to work with the Kiro CLI. And so then you install the Kiro CLI, just following the instructions. Here, I'll pull that up really quick right now. So I'll go to CLI installation. You want to install it with the Ubuntu instructions right here. So I'm going to update the README after the live stream to link to this for the Windows installation specifically. I had it there at one point. But like I said, I was using Kiro to help me build the quick start. I must have like changed something as I was consolidating the README. I don't remember exactly, but these are the instructions you can follow. So you just run this wget command to pull it, and then you run a couple of commands to install, and that's it. Like you can do this in like literally a minute. It's so fast. And then you can launch the Kiro CLI just with the Kiro-CLI command here. So that's literally all it takes to get started. And then the other thing that I mentioned is that you can start it in YOLO mode. And so I'll show that here after the playwright MCP loads, because I'm actually going to use that for the demo here. But you can do /tools and then trust all. And then here, I'll zoom in a little bit for you guys so it's really easy to see. But now all tools are trusted. Just keep in mind there are security concerns that come with this. And so oftentimes you might want to do this in an isolated environment like Docker or Dagger. That's outside of the scope of this stream. But typically, though, like I don't have any problem with running trust all. I've never had a situation where a coding agent has gone off the rails, besides maybe deleting some files I didn't want, but that's also why I use Git. So I have version control. I can always revert if the coding agent decides to delete something it shouldn't have. I've never had a situation, though, where it goes outside of my current directory to delete files. I've heard of horror stories, but I honestly think that a lot of those are made up. So yeah, anyway. I'm in Kiro now, and then you can also do /help in order to see all of the different built-in / commands that we have. And remember, in the Kiro guide, one of the markdowns that I have in the folder here, I also have kind of some instructions for all of the essential / commands. So I cover all the core things you can do. For example, we can do /model to see which LLMs are available to us. And so right now, Kiro just supports Claude models, but they support all of them that you would care to use, right? Like Sonnet 4.5, Sonnet 4, Haiku 4.5, and Opus 4.5. And one of the really cool things with Kiro is they have this auto mode. And so the model can actually be chosen dynamically based on the task. And they claim that this will give you a Sonnet 4.5 performance. So even though it sometimes uses Haiku, their claim is that it accurately picks when to use Haiku for the tasks where it actually doesn't affect you negatively. That's using a faster and cheaper model. And so I keep saying claim because there's not a way to like truly verify, but I will say that like from my experience for using Kiro quite extensively, I used like 50 credits on this account. I did a lot in the IDE and with another account in CLI earlier. It is actually very good. Like I've been able to do things just as well with Kiro as I am with Claude Code. And so you can use auto mode, or if you want, you can like hard code, like, okay, I just want to use Opus 4.5 only right now. You can definitely do that. And even though it costs 2.2x credits, like I said, credits still go pretty far, and you're going to get a lot of free ones for the hackathon here. So that is the models. And then the other thing is, when you start the Kiro CLI in this folder for the template, we automatically have everything in the .kiro folder loaded. And so I cover this in the Kiro guide, exactly how you set up your prompts and your steering documents, but this is the common folder where all these things are going to be automatically loaded into Kiro when you start the CLI in this folder. And so the prompts here, all these markdown documents are the reusable workflows, those prompts that are available to us. And so now if I do @quickstart, it is going to automatically read the instructions in the quickstart.md. This is the setup wizard, and it's going to just kick things off for us. And so that's what we're going to do in just a second here. The other thing is these steering documents. This is context that is automatically loaded into our conversation. So at the very beginning, this context just sits there in the context window. And so I actually really appreciate the way that Kiro sets up steering documents. A lot of other coding agents, they have a single file, like a claw.md or an agents.md. And like, yes, you can do like global rules and nested rules and stuff, but I like how Kiro actually supports like having a single folder at the project level where you can split your rules into different files based on different categories. Like here is everything about the product, here is our like our architecture, and then here's like the tech stack that we have, right? Like that kind of thing. I actually like being able to have things split up because it makes it easier to review our rules and evolve them going forward. And like I said, that's a really important part of our system here. And so right away, in the README, I tell you, like, just get started with the quick start. Like, that's the first thing. And because we're starting the Kiro CLI here where we already have the prompts loaded, we don't have to set anything else up. And so we can see the full prompt in the grayed out text here. This is the instruction set that we just loaded in for Kiro. And so now it says, welcome to the Kiro CLI Quick Start Wizard. I'll help you set up your development environment by completing your steering documents and showing you the powerful workflow available to you. So it's pretty quick overall. We just have to answer some of its questions because it's going to go through a conversation with us so that it can customize the steering documents to our project. So right away, you're optimizing things for your own code base. That's what I want to really have like built into the template for you, because that's one of the biggest things that I'm encouraging. And by the way, you can see that when I started this process, I didn't even use 1/10 of a credit. And so that's what I'm getting at. Like, obviously, when you get into larger feature development and the agent is doing a ton of code editing and web research and validating and using MCP servers, like it's going to take a lot more credits. But it's certainly not like one prompt is 1 credit. It's oftentimes a lot less, and that's why it can take you pretty far. And so now it's just asking a few essential questions here. What's your project name? What does the project do? Who will use this? What's your primary technology? And so in order to go through this pretty quickly, I'm actually going to use a speech-to-text tool called AquaVoice. And so AquaVoice is not sponsoring this stream, even though I'm about to use it a lot. This is just legitimately a tool that I use all the time. Let me actually switch the microphone to the right one here. So yeah, I'm able to speak into my machine and have it just output into any text box on my entire computer. So I like using AquaVoice. I have spoken 447,000 words into AquaVoice since I installed it at the end of April of last year. So yeah, it saved me 6 days of typing, which I don't know exactly how it detects. I don't know if it's comparing like the words per minute to the average words per minute typing. I don't know exactly, but anyway, I love it. And so we're going to use that here just so I can quickly dictate all the answers to the questions for the wizard. And so the one thing here is that it says like the more detailed you can be, the better, right? Like if it's going to leverage this conversation to set up our steering documents, it's going to be quite helpful to give as much detail as we possibly can. So don't cheap out on this. Don't cut corners just because you want to go through it quickly. And so I honestly will cut a couple of corners myself right now just for the sake of brevity for a demo. But you would definitely want to like spend a good amount of time here answering its questions, because that's going to dictate a lot of the success of your project. The planning up front is so extremely important, because if you're not clear enough here, then maybe the coding agent is going to write technically working code, but it's not going to be aligned with your vision and architecture and things like that. Because there's 2 ways a coding agent can mess things up. It can create bad code that just simply isn't working, or it can just make something that isn't aligned with your vision. And so in answering all the questions here, our main goal is to reduce the number of assumptions that the coding agent is making with our project. And because this is so high level, that if it makes a bad assumption around like who the target audience is, like is this a SaaS product or a personal application, if it makes the wrong assumption there, that is going to be so bad for the project. Like the architecture, everything is going to be engineered in the wrong way. And so yeah, I'm going to go ahead and kind of guide it through building an application that I think is it's relevant to the start of the year. Just for a simple example for you guys here, I'm going to build a habit tracker application, right? Like we're all here at the start of the year making our New Year's resolutions. We want to build good habits. And so I'm just going to make an application to help us track our habits and have like a streak that we can build as we're fulfilling our habits over the days. I think it's just a nice, fun use case. And exactly what we're building here is not really the point. It's more the process that I want to demonstrate. So I wanted to choose something like not extremely trivial, but still pretty simple. And so I'll go into my speech to text tool here. All right, it is the start of the new year. So I want to build a habit tracker application. And so we'll just call this, actually, I want you to come up with a unique name for this project. And so in 1 to 2 sentences, I want this project to help me track my habits throughout the days and also like help me build streaks so that I can stay motivated and really see my progress over time as I'm maintaining my habits. I'm going to keep this as a personal application right now. Maybe I'll just share it with some friends, but I don't need to like host this or have authentication or anything like that. I just want to keep it simple. And then for my primary technology, I want to use Python for a backend, and we can just use SQLite for our database to keep it really simple. And then I want to use React and Vite for my front end. And then for the architecture patterns, go ahead and suggest something to me here. I'm not super hard set on anything. And then for requirements for testing, I have the Playwright MCP server. So we can use that for you to automatically test through the browser automation, the website as you're building it out. And then I want to make sure that I have some basic but solid unit testing as well. And then, we'll be using Playwright for the integration testing. All right, boom, send that in. That would take a lot longer to type if I actually typed it out. One of the things that I love about using a speech-to-text tool is that if I weren't to have one, I would probably just be a lot less specific to the coding agent because there's just such a barrier to typing out that level of detail. Like everything that I said right there would have taken probably at least 3 times longer to type it out. And so I might have not included certain things. And so the thing is like, it just takes more time to get there, but also you might just never do it. And so that's why I love just being able to like spew my thoughts. And obviously, I spew a lot of thoughts because I have 450,000 words, but it's helpful. So anyway, what it's doing here now is given all the requirements that we have, and again, I would encourage you to be even more specific in answering all these questions. Now it's all right. So our application is called StreakForge. That is like the most classic LLM generated name I've seen. For some reason, large language models love using the word forge when you ask it to give any kind of name for an application, because you're forging strong habits through consistent streaks. All right, there we go. So a little cringe, but we'll just roll with it. Based on everything that I've documented for my requirements, it is now going to fill in the templates that we have in the steering folder here. And so obviously I'm not going to push this to GitHub because I want it to remain as the template for you guys. But it took the product.md that we have in steering and it filled out everything. So target user, this is for primarily purpose use. We got StreakForge as the name. Here are the key features that we want to build in. And then you guys can also take this as an opportunity to iterate on the steering documents. Like I would really encourage you to read through what it's built here and make sure that it's actually aligned with your vision for the project, right? Like maybe there are some features here that you think don't actually fit. Like, okay, I don't need this for my MVP. I don't want to build this for the hackathon because I think it's going to take too long. You should go through all of these features and go through the structure, like actually validate things, because this is your chance to make sure that you and the coding agent are actually aligned and that you have correctly removed the assumptions from the coding agent. Because like I said, if you mess anything up here and it doesn't understand exactly what you want to build or how you want to build it, that's just going to lead to a poor output quality. Even if the code is correct, it might not be what you want. And so for the sake of a demo, I'm not going to go through everything meticulously right now, even though I would encourage you to. So do as I say, not as I do, right? But I hope you guys can understand that I don't think it's very interesting for the live stream if I go through and read everything line by line. But what I will say as you're reviewing these things is definitely ask questions, right? Like explain the architecture you laid out in just a couple of sentences, right? So if you want to really quickly ask follow-up questions, you can use the Kiro to help you understand what it's built in the steering documents without you having to read through literally everything line by line. So you can if you want, or you can really quickly just ask it these kinds of questions. So it's an API first monorepo with a fast API backend. If you're newer to software engineering and you don't know what that means, you can definitely ask it as well. But overall, I think this actually looks really good. And by the way, when it did all of this editing, the different documents, it only took a credit. And like this prompt took less than 1/10 of a credit again. So continuing to be pretty efficient. And like I hope you guys can see, like overall, this is pretty fast. Like it did a lot of planning and editing these files, and this entire thing only took less than 1.5 minutes. So all right, now that we have our steering documents, it also gave us a hackathon reminder here. Okay, so a hackathon reminder, but then also after the setup is complete, now it's giving us your development workflow. And so this explains exactly what I have in the README as well. Like here are the core commands that are available to you, which remember, I encourage you to optimize these and build on top of them. But these are the commands for your development workflow to build all the features into your code base. And so it says right now, try this command @prime. This will load your project context so I understand StreakForge completely. And then you can plan your first feature. And like this is actually what I'm going to go through with you right now. And then it says hackathon reminder. Remember to continuously update your devlog as you build. It's worth 20% of your score. And so the setup wizard understands the judging criteria. And so what would you like to tackle first? The backend API structure, the React frontend, maybe start with planning the database schema. But honestly, what I would recommend is actually starting a new conversation before we go into our first feature development. And so let's actually do that. I'm going to clear. I'm going to go back into the Kiro CLI. Just have to wait for it to load the playwright MCP. And then I will do /tools trust all so that I'm back into the skip permission checks mode. And then I will start with the prime command. And so typically you don't need to run the prime command when you are first starting a code base because there's not really much to prime yourself on. But it will at least quickly realize that this is a brand new project, right? So like even using prime just to like quickly help it understand like, okay, we're starting from scratch here. Like that can be really good too. And so it's checking what's in our current directory. It's looking at our Git repository. All right, very good. And then in just a second here, it'll be done with the priming. So it doesn't do anything yet, but it now has the context in the code base to understand what I'm building. Like here we go, it's listing out the tech stack here, SQLite, Python Fast API, React frontend, that kind of thing. And it even gives me the next steps. So the template is fully configured and ready for feature development. And then here is our workflow. And so now what I want to do is I just want to have a conversation with the coding agent, like what should I build next? Like, okay, for this app, what would you recommend building first? And so you can go right into the plan feature command, but even better, I actually recommend you just starting with a simple conversation here to get on the same page, like what should be built next? So in our case, what should we build first? Once you're already working on the code base, the question is, what should we build next? Because you don't want to do too much at once. Like that is just so important. You cannot ask the coding agent to tackle the entire application at the same time. Break it down, use Kiro to help you break it down like I'm doing right here. And so based on StreakForge, I recommend building in this order. We'll start with the core backend, then we'll build a minimal front-end shell, and then we'll set up the core Streak logic. And so I think that's actually really good. And so, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to call @plan-feature. And so this is going to load in the instruction sets to create the structured plan. Now, when you call plan feature, there is an argument here for exactly what you want to build. So it's going to ask you for a feature description. What feature would you like me to plan? For example, core database models and habit CRUD API, daily check-in functionality with streak tracking. So please provide the feature and then it'll create the structured plan. So the goal of the plan feature command is to create a markdown document that outlines all the details around what we want to create. And it's going to do, like web research and deep thinking and looking at the code base to plan everything out for us. And it's actually a very, very powerful command. And so I'll say, I want, I'll use my speech to text tool. So I'll use Aqua Voice again. I'll say, I want to build out the initial scaffolding for the project. So let's create a very basic front end and get the initial back end set up. I don't want to get too fancy right now, but I do want to get to the point with this first execution where we can actually validate things with the Playwright MCP server. So basic back end, getting SQLite set up, and getting the front end set up with React and Vite. All right, there we go. And so again, I would probably be covering things in more detail here if it wasn't more brief demonstration. But I am showing you guys like the full process that I'd go through. You start with the priming, you have a conversation of what you should build next or what you should start with. Then you get into creating your plan, and then we'll execute the plan after we have it. And so you can see that as a part of the instruction set that we just loaded here, we have instructions for doing web research and actually looking through the initial code base. So it's doing a lot of work to create a really solid plan. It's more than just vibe coding when we're guiding it through the planning process. And then we can, of course, validate everything as well to make sure that it's aligned and that the code looks good. Depending on if you're an experienced software engineer or not, you might not necessarily like analyze and validate all of the code yourself. But if you are more experienced with coding, like you definitely can feel free to look at the plan and all the pseudocode or code that it has in there and like make sure things look good before you go on with the execution. Like I'd highly recommend that you don't just vibe code, that you really understand what it's going to build before you have it build it. And so once it creates the markdown document, I'll show you very briefly what it looks like to scan through it and make sure that the structured plan is looking really good. And so, yeah, one thing that I'll say, just as we're waiting for the coding agent here, let me go back to my browser. A lot of what I'm showing you guys here is what I cover in the agentic coding course. So the whole system that I'm just introducing, like we're really just scratching the surface for what is possible with reliable and repeatable systems for AI coding. I'm introducing you to a lot of that in this process that I'm outlining right now. And one thing that I forgot to open is my Obsidian, because I want to show you guys a diagram really quick. So let me I'll pull this up off camera. All right, there we go. So this is like a big teaser. This diagram right here, I know it's a lot to digest. This kind of like outlines the entire system that I teach in the Dynamous agentic coding course. And a lot of like the feature development that we're doing in a loop, that is the PIV loop, as I call it. This is like the core mental model that I cover in the course, but I also cover what it looks like to evolve our system, how we work with greenfield development and brownfield development. Like I hit on like literally everything in the course. And I even like have the whole course progression outlined here as well. And so this is kind of like the core reference guide that I have. So I'm just kind of teasing that to you right now. A lot of that is, like I said, what I'm introducing to you going through the demonstration of the hackathon here. But if you really want to get deep, you want to understand brownfield and greenfield development for new and existing code bases. You want to get into system evolution and how you can make your coding agents more and more powerful over time. But definitely check out the Dynamous agentic coding course. So I'll put a link to that in the chat again. And then I'll go back to my IDE here and we'll see if it's done. All right, there we go. So we're done. So it took 1.5 credits, took less than 2 minutes, and we have our full plan implemented. And so that plan, I just have it added into a .agents folder, which I could do .kiro. You could change the command if you want. That's just a part of the instructions that we have in the plan feature command. Like if I search for .agents, we'll see that we instruct it to create it in .agent/plans, and then it creates a file name in a specific format. It's called kebab case because it does all lowercase with dashes between the words. But you can change this all you want. Like every single one of the prompts here is just a markdown document that you can edit to define the workflow for whatever you want. And so let's take a look at this. So overall, the plan that it generated is 400 lines long. And typically, if I'm not in the middle of a live stream, I'll read through everything. I'll at least skim through everything. And so right now, we have feature description, user story. As a developer, I want to have a complete project scaffolding with backend and frontend so I can begin building the habit tracking features on a solid foundation. Very good. I think that's a good user story. Problem statement, solution statement. I'm not going to read through all this right now. One thing that I love as a part of these structured plans, and this, again, is just a part of the plan feature command. We have the template here. And so like this is the template, what we have just filled out entirely for that document that we're now reviewing before we get into our implementation. And so we also have the context references. Here are the parts of the code base that are relevant for us to analyze so that we can know what we need to build next. Here are the new files that we need to create for setting up the backend and the front end, relevant documentation that we should reference during implementation, and it even lists out the desired code base structure. So getting the initial structure for our application. And then typically as a part of the plan, the coding agent will create a lot of pseudocode. I'm not saying this is necessarily working code, but it's going to generate the general idea for what we need to build for our API and our front end. It'll list out the full implementation plan. So we have a task by task breakdown of everything that we're going to do to knock out this feature. And this kind of structure just means the world to the coding agent. Like, it makes a world of difference, I guess is a better way to put it. Yeah, so just being able to ingest this structured plan, break it down task by task, and implement those one at a time with validation built in, that is what this structured plan offers. For Kiro, you can literally use this whole process with literally any AI coding agent. And then we also have the testing strategy. So not only can the coding agent implement everything from the structured plan, but we also give it instructions for how it can test its own work. So it's going to create the unit tests, run the unit tests, and iterate on the tests in the code until everything is passing. And then we have the integration tests, because we're going to do end-to-end testing with Playwright. And so if you don't know, Playwright is a browser automation tool. And with the Playwright MCP that I actually have connected here, so if I do /MCP, we have the Playwright MCP connected into Kiro, which if you want to see how I did that, I just have the settings folder right here with an mcp.json. And I just copied this configuration directly from the Playwright MCP GitHub page. And so our Kiro coding agent can literally open up a browser and navigate to the website to verify things as if a user would. And so we get full end-to-end validation as a part of our implementation here. It's super cool. And so I'm not going to go and iterate on the structure plan right now. You can see that I gave a confidence of 8 out of 10. Typically, I would iterate on this to make sure that everything is top-notch, aligned with my vision. But I'm just going to go right into the execution here. And so what we can do is, actually, I'm just going to start a new session here, because we have our plan created. And the whole point of the structured plan here is this is literally all of the context that the coding agent needs in order to knock out the next feature cycle. And so we don't even have to stay in the same conversation. I can start a brand new conversation and I can just do @execute. And then when I call @execute, it's going to ask me for the plan file. And so I can just copy this. The reason I have to do this, by the way, is because parameters are not supported in prompts in Kiro like they are in Claude Code /commands. It's a little bit unfortunate. I really wish that parameters were supported, but this definitely works because I just call @execute and it loads in this entire instruction set, and then it asks me for the plan file. So I just right-clicked on the plan markdown, copied relative path, and pasted it in. There we go. That's all we need to do. And so now it'll read the file, there we go, and this is the instruction set. This is all the context that it needs. And so it's reading the files that we tell it needs to ingest, and then it's going to do the research and like look at the different documentation that we referenced, and then it'll dive right into the implementation. And you know what I forgot to do is /tools trust all. Wait, hold on. Actually, you know what? I'm going to clear this and restart because I forgot to do the trust all. So /tools trust all. I just don't want to deal with accepting all the different actions right now. So I'll do @execute. That was the wrong spelling. There we go. And then I'll copy the path again. So there we go. It's asking me again for the path. Paste it in. Boom. There we go. Okay, now it won't ask for my permission. I don't want to deal with that. All right. Very good. So I'll let it rip, and while it does that, I'll go ahead and answer some of your questions here, because this is the part that will take the longest, because not only does it do all the coding, but it'll actually do all the validation as well. And so hopefully we'll also see in a little bit when it works on the front end, we'll see the browser pop up and we can actually watch it navigate things autonomously. That's always really fun to see. And I've done a lot of stuff like that on my channel recently, actually, like with the browser automation and the Claude, the Anthropic agent harness. I don't know if you guys saw the content on that I did, but it's really cool the kind of self-validation that we can do. It just leads to such consistent results with our coding agents, because then it's going to iterate on any issues before it even comes to our attention. Like we just like let it go, and then we come back and things are working great because it iterated 10 times or whatever it took to avoid or to fix all the little issues that come up. All right, so I'll go back to the chat here. Can't we just do a web app that would work on any OS? Yeah, 100% you can. So, yeah, speaking to what we were talking about earlier, making the application work for any OS, you can containerize it so that you get to pick the operating system. Or, like I said, a lot of applications are going to work no matter the operating system. Like if you're building a web application and you're building with like a Python backend and a React frontend, like I'm doing here, it's going to work no matter the operating system. Typically, I mean, there are some nuances, like the way that you handle file paths, depending on your app. Like that might end up only working for Linux, for example. But like those are usually more bugs in the platform, in your code, versus like the project is fundamentally only compatible with a single OS. Now, if you build like a Mac desktop app or something, maybe, but yeah, then you just containerize that. But for a web app, it'd work no matter. All right. How do you capture the devlog for a non-developer like me? Very good question. I'll show that as a part of the demo here, because I'll actually show what it looks like too. I'll have my coding agent read the devlog and then help me start to create it. And so you can rely on the coding agent a lot in order to help you maintain your devlogs. You don't have to understand everything extremely deeply. I encourage you to understand the code, but you don't have to understand every single line and document every single line. You can keep the devlog concise, and you can use the coding agent to help you. We are living in the time of endless possibilities. That is right. It is crazy that it's so easy to build any software now. Well, easy relative to what it was even a year ago. I mean, it's still fundamentally a difficult thing to build an application that's working really well and a lot of users want, and you have the marketing around it. Like, that's not an easy problem, but a lot of like the initial coding that used to be really difficult isn't anymore. All right. All threads are private, locked in Dynamous. How do we claim credits for the hackathon? So let me go back to the browser here, because not everything should be locked. If you clicked on this button here to join the hackathon, that'll take you to the community where this will be open for you. These two sections of the Kiro Hackathon. Everything else is for the membership in Dynamous, but you'll have access to these two things joining for free. You don't have to be a member to participate in the hackathon. And then when I make the announcement for claiming your credits, I'll do that for an announcement here, and then you'll also get an email for that. So excited to be part of the journey. Well, I appreciate you being a part of the journey. Thanks, bro. You taught me how to build and read code. It's my pleasure. I appreciate that. And you're welcome. ColeAM00, the AI content machine. Thanks, Joe. Cole's insane. If you're new, stay on top of his videos. I appreciate it a lot. Yeah, I work day in and day out, both on YouTube and in the Dynamous community, just to keep you guys on the cutting edge of building AI agents and leveraging AI coding assistants, like I'm showing you guys right now. All right. Let's see, when I was using the Kiro IDE in the past before the CLI and tried to build using WSL, Kiro was unable to run bash commands in Ubuntu. Has that been resolved? It was very painful. Yes, so I have encountered that before actually, Jason, and I have not recently. So when I was using Kiro, like very initially, like July and August of last year, I encountered these things as well. But so far, in using the IDE more recently, I've not had any problems at all. And so like, I mean, we'll even see like right now through the demo, as it's editing files and running MCP servers and other commands to create directories like it did here, everything was flawless. And so, yeah, I think it's resolved. All right. So I'm kind of looking at the chat here because it seems to be confused. I don't know why it's trying to install Playwright when it should be using the MCP server. I think that might be a problem with the plan, right? Like something in the structured plan. I didn't tell it I wanted to use the MCP server specifically, and so I probably should have. So again, I went through the structure plan pretty quickly. I should have taken my time and really reviewed things, but I wanted to be quick for the live stream. And so I might just have to come in and interject here and say, oh, make sure you use the Playwright MCP server. Don't have that, like, you don't have to actually install it as a dev dependency here. And so, yeah, I'm probably going to have to interject in a second here But that's okay, because like in the end, these problems wouldn't happen if I'm like really validating the structured plan. And because I didn't, it just means I have to like interject a little bit, but it's not the end of the world. So yeah, I don't know. I'll have to wait for it to be done trying to install things here. All right. Let's see what else. I'm just looking back at the chat here while I wait for this. This is not the first time Cole mentioned about Aqua Voice. Yeah, right, because I use it a lot. A lot of Dynamous events, a lot of live streams, because I'm using it personally, like literally all the time. Yep. Aqua Voice for life. It's a pretty good tool, yep. Go and Rust always shows built for production. Yeah, Go and Rust are freaking fast languages for sure. They're pretty awesome. Okay. So I need to interject here. You need to stop. Because it's creating a bash script now. That's pretty messy. Alright. Stop. You should be using the Playwright MCP server. Get rid of that script and then move on and use Playwright. Thank you. So went a little off the rails there. I don't really know what's up with node modules. I don't know why it couldn't install Playwright, because it looks like it can install everything else. So I think we're good to move on as long as I'm telling it to use the Playwright MCP. So, all right. You're absolutely right. That's what coding agents always say. I should be using the Playwright MCP. Let me remove that script. And then, yeah, use the MCP for browser automation. Oh, and there we go. Take a look at that. You guys see that the browser popped up? It's still loading right now, but in a second... There we go. All right, nice. So it's using the Playwright MCP. Obviously, there's nothing really built into StreakForge yet, but it looks like it's testing the connection to our backend, which is also very cool. And then, yeah, welcome to StreakForge. This is the initial scaffolding for your habit tracking application. The backend API is running, and there we go. It closed the browser, so we saw that disappear automatically. All right, we're looking really good. So there is one hiccup there. So yeah, let me be very clear here. The reason that happened is because just because you have an MCP server connected to the coding agent doesn't mean that it's going to recognize when to use it properly. And I see this all the time, no matter the coding agent, Cursor, Cloud Code, Kiro, whatever. And so a lot of times when there's a specific MCP that you want to leverage, you should include that as part of the instructions in the structured plan. Like there should have been something in here. Like if I Google, or not Google, goodness, if I search for MCP, I think it actually added this in after, but initially I don't think there was anything that said MCP. And so that's why it didn't really recognize. It just hallucinated. It thought that it should install Playwright to the front end because that's a very common thing to do and leverage that instead. But as soon as I guided it correctly, everything worked perfectly. And so, yeah, things are looking really good. And so now this is where I would validate things myself, like actually spin up the application and check things. I'd look at the code. I'm not going to do that right now for the sake of brevity, but I will show you the code review command. And so when I do @code review, it's going to do a deep dive into the entire code base and then produce an analysis file that I can then reference to see if there's anything that I need to identify in the current implementation. And so this is kind of like the last step in one feature implementation, and then I just restart the loop, right? Like I go back, I do the prime in a brand new conversation, I plan the next feature, I go through everything that I just showed you. We just do this in a loop. And like I said, if there's anything that we encounter as a problem, then we're going to document that in our devlog and then find an opportunity to improve something in our system. Like maybe there is actually something that isn't quite set up right in our steering. Like, oh, actually our technology, our technical architecture is a bit different than this says. Or we ended up going a different route slightly. Like we need to make sure that we keep things up to date and evolved so that we're avoiding any problems that come up initially. And so like in the case of what happened right here, this is actually the perfect opportunity to improve something in our documentation. Because in the steering docs here, I need to specify for our feature development, we should always be using the Playwright MCP server for our browser automation testing. We don't want to install anything in the front end. And so I think I'll actually include this in the tech right here. So I don't really care exactly where this goes, because all of the markdown here is going to be brought into the coding agent. And so I'll literally just add something at the very top here. I'll say DevTools. And I'll just say always use the Playwright MCP server for end-to-end testing and any browser automations, right? So this is a very, very basic example of how we encounter a problem in our code base and we adjust part of our system based on this. We could have also adjusted something in our prompts, like within our planned feature. Right now there's nothing that specifies MCP besides this one little part to like add in any MCP servers we want for validation. But like we might want to add something here where it's like we use Playwright MCP for end-to-end testing, any browser automations, right? Like we could add that as a part of our planning command as well. So like that would be specified. So there's different options for where we'd edit something in our system, but it's always going to come down to changing our context or changing our workflows in order to avoid a problem that we encountered during the development process. And so right here we spent 4 credits because we did an extremely comprehensive code review. So I'm jumping back to the code review now. We just finished our system improvement. And it also outputs in the code reviews this markdown document for any findings that it had. And so we have a couple of issues here. It found some deprecated import, hard-coded cores origin, which I don't really care about, right? Like, so it's our job to take the report and then look at these problems and see if there's something we actually want to address. If I just ask it to address literally everything, that's definitely vibe coding. We're not going to get the best results. And so luckily there's nothing here that's like a major problem. It's just severity of medium and low. And like honestly looking at this right now, I don't think there's anything I super need to address. But for anything that's a medium severity, I would probably address these things. Like a deprecation warning, that's probably good to address. Not going to do that right now for the sake of brevity. I know I've said that like 5 times already, but I do want to be pretty quick for the demo. But this is just to show you like how we can use a coding agent to evaluate its own work. And a lot of times what you can do is actually run the code review command in a brand new context window, because then it really is like a third party coming in to evaluate what's just been built, because it doesn't remember anything from the previous conversation that it's actually the one who built that. And so like every time we start the Kiro CLI in a new session, it's basically a new agent that's running for us. And so I did it here in the same conversation, which you definitely can. But also I probably shouldn't have, because any sort of biases that were built up in this conversation would remain during the code review. And so it's good to like actually restart this and then run the the @code review command, because it can leverage the Git file tracking. And it can like look at our steering documents, like it can understand like where we're currently at in our development in order to know what exactly it should be doing a code review on. So very good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually do /chat resume, because I want to load that conversation back. Because what I want to do now, the last thing that I want to show you guys as a part of the demonstration here, is I want to show you the updating the devlog. And like I think that really closes it off for the feature implementation. Because then what I'll do next is I'll literally just go back to the start of the loop. I'll do my prime, I'll do my plan, go through everything that we already did. And so the devlog is the last thing. So I'm going to say here, reference, and then I'll do @examples/devlog. Because we're creating the devlog from scratch right now, right? Like every feature implementation going forward, we'll be editing it, but right now we have to actually create it. So you know what this looks like. I'm actually just going to use speech to text here. So I need you to create a new devlog for me in the .agents folder. Or we could put this in the .kiro folder. And so look at the example devlog to see the structure that I want to follow here. And I want you to build the initial devlog based on what we've just created. I'm not going to address anything in the code reviews right now, but just based on what we did during the execution and the validation that we did so far. I also want you to mention the challenge of I didn't use the Playwright MCP server right away, so I had to tell it to do that explicitly. And in order to address that, I updated the steering document tech.md so that we have explicit instruction to use the Playwright MCP for all browser automation and end-to-end testing. There we go. So a little bit random. I'm just trying to include my thought process about what happened during that implementation. And so it's going to take my very free-form unstructured text and build a lot of structure around that into the devlog here. And like I hinted at earlier, you could also build a slash command to go through this process more systematically, right? Like here are the sections of the devlog. You edit this, and then you edit this, then you edit this. You ask these kind of clarifying questions if the user didn't specify it. Building that as a prompt or a command is very powerful as well. And so I'll leave that up as an exercise to you as one of the things I want you to do for your hackathon submission. And so there we go. Kiro is nice and fast as always. It read through the example and now it built one for me in the .kiro folder. And I know that I was dictating that to the coding agent when I said .agents or .kiro, but that also was kind of a message for you, right? Like it's up to you where you want to put the devlog. It doesn't really matter as long as it's a part of your submission. So I'll allow the creation here because I forgot to do the trust all. There we go. So here is our devlog. All right, now honestly it's probably a bit longer than I need at first. It's 200 lines long, so I might ask it to make it more concise, but overall it's pretty good. So day one, we created our project foundation. And okay, that's funny. It actually has timestamps for the session. I didn't know it had access to that information. That's pretty cool. So over the last half hour, we executed our first loop based on our plan here. And then we set up our backend, our front end, our testing strategy, and then we have our challenge of initially didn't use the player at MCP. And then our solution here was to redirect to use the player at MCP in our global rules, in our steering documents. So very good. And so we established our full technical architecture. And now when we add on to our devlog over time, we're just going to keep appending to this document. And so feel free, like it can get pretty long if you want it to, because when I judge your submission, I'm just going to use a coding agent to review the devlog and kind of give me the summary of it, right? So I'm still going to be looking at a lot of things myself manually, but of course I'm going to be using a coding agent to help me review things. I will be the one, giving the criteria in the end though. Which, speaking of that, we can also use the Kiro plan or the Kiro prompt for the code review hackathon. And so this is like, I guess the very last thing I want to demonstrate here is if I do @code review hackathon, it's going to run it's going to be similar to the code review command that we already ran, but it's going to actually give us the scoring for the rubric in the end. So I got to restart because I forgot to do the trust all again. There is a way to set this up so that it runs trust all automatically. But I just don't have that set up right now. I'll show that in the documentation in a sec, but code review hackathon, there we go. All right, so while that runs, I'll actually show you really quick. If I go to the docs here for trust all, where is that? Man, maybe I don't, no, because that's security considerations. Where is that? There was something I saw in the documentation where they showed how you could like add it to your environment, or you add it to your what's called bash RC file so that it runs automatically, so you don't have to deal with that, setting that manually. Where is that? Permissions. I think it was here. No. Yeah, I don't know exactly where it was. There's a way to do it though. You could literally just ask Kiro. Like, I'm sick of running trust all. How can I do that automatically? But yeah, let me go back to the IDE here. Okay, so it's still going through. Oh, see, it's checking for a demo video. Like, it's looking through everything that we have in the rubric right now, and then it'll give us the score at the end. Now, obviously, the score will be pretty low right now because I didn't even really think about the README or anything, and the application just got started. But yeah, so our overall score is low, 32 out of 100, to be expected right now. The application quality is 8 out of 40 because the application is essentially a template with minimal functionality, right? Like, it makes sense. It's solving a real world problem. Currently none. The application only displays a welcome message and health check. Right, makes sense. Yeah, but if we were to fully build this out, then obviously the score would go up a ton. And the Kiro CLI usage, though, it says is really good because we're actually like leveraging our full process, and we have that outlined in the devlog, and like it actually recognizes that. We got good documentation because we've at least documented everything we've done so far well. Yeah, so overall, this is just like a really helpful command to get a general sense of where you're at in your scoring. Again, take that with a huge grain of salt because the coding agent's going to grade a lot differently than I will or another judge. But the biggest thing to use it for is just a quick sanity check. There's nothing you're missing out on, right? Like you might end up forgetting to update your devlog, and it'll call that out for you. So it's just good to like iterate on that a little bit before you actually do the submission. So definitely run this command at the very end before you submit. But you can also run it every few features, right? Like the code review command is meant more to run like after every feature, and then the code review hackathon is a bit more in depth. And that one you want to run just every once in a while, or you could, I mean, you could run it whenever you want to. So yeah, that's it for the demonstration. The other thing I wanted to show is my usage here. So let me sign in with my builder ID. And so I started at about 50 credits before our live stream. So I used about 15 credits today for what I was doing with you guys right now. So yeah, not a lot of credits overall. Like if you get 500 to start and you're going to get more given to you for the hackathon on Monday next week, like man, you're going to be able to build a lot. I know that we didn't build a ton, but we did a good amount of work, right? Like we did some of our initial setup, we did a lot of validation, and I showed all the commands going through the wizard and the code review and the hackathon code review and every single one of the commands. And like, yeah, I did things pretty quickly. And a full feature build for you might take a bit longer, but it's still not going to be more. It's going to be definitely less than 50 credits per feature loop that you do, even if you're doing quite a bit of validation. And so if you have hundreds and hundreds of credits, you're going to be able to complete everything you need in the hackathon without paying a dime. And they have their different pricing tiers here if you need more credits, but you're not. Like I would honestly say that if you get to the point where you use all the credits available to you, then there's probably big opportunities for you to improve your coding system because you're probably over engineering or doing too much or having to iterate on your solution too much. So yeah. All right. So yeah, someone asked, can you show your credits? So that's literally what I just did here. Are those timestamps real or hallucinated? I think they're actually real. They looked real to me. Let me go back to my devlog here. It said 1052 to 1108. I mean, that seems pretty accurate. I don't know why it's different here, though. I don't know. I think it's pretty real, though. Wonder how many credits to create the Streak Forge. Yeah, 15 so far. Fail? I wouldn't say anything failed here. I don't know what that's in reference to. Kiro credits are nice and thick, very worth it. Yeah. Can I use Laravel? Yeah, definitely. Feel free. I mean, I would say like it's better to containerize things so that I don't have to like install Laravel on my own system. But as long as you document things really clearly in the README for prerequisites and installing stuff, then you're good to go. Yeah. Any good solution for Linux? Aqua Voice is not available on Ubuntu. The open source one didn't really work well in detection. So it depends on the open source one that you're using, of course. For Epicenter Whispering is one that I had good results with before. This one, you can just like, Google Epicenter Whispering. I don't know if this is the open source one you're referring to. Maybe, unfortunately, that is. But this one works on Linux and is a pretty good one. I mean, in the end, like it's not going to be as good as Aqua Voice. There's a reason that I use it, even though I have to pay. It's like $10 a month for Aqua Voice, so it's not bad overall. But yeah, there is a reason that I use it. We build our app with your repo, correct? So you don't have to. You can definitely, as long as you're using Kiro and you're documenting with your devlog and your README and you're creating the steering documents and prompts, you don't have to use the repo, but it is a fantastic starting point that I would encourage you to use. And so if you do want to use this template, then yes, you just build your project directly in the repo. Like you run the quick start and it guides you through creating your steering documents and you just build on top of that going forward like I was showing in the demonstration here. So good question. All right. What else do we got here? Do you always use UV for Python? Yes, nowadays I do. It's just the fastest. It's so good. I love using UV. Yeah. All right. So does it check off the steering documents as it goes? So if you want to, if you mean updating your steering documents as you go, that's something that you're going to have to prompt it to do, right? Like if I find a problem in the code that I want to address going forward, I would tell it like, okay, let's think about how we would fix this problem in the system. And okay, yeah, I want to update the steering documents in this way. So it's not going to update those things automatically. And now, if you're referring to a steering document that's kind of like the PRD, where it's like, here's what is built so far, then that's not something that is checked off automatically. So that would be something that you would build into your system if you want to do it that way, where you actually have a PRD that has like checkboxes for the different features that you want to build in your loops. And so that actually is a good idea. I would encourage you to build that in if you want to. It would definitely help you score well for the whole documentation and application quality. How is the quick starter different than just asking Kiro to create the foundational steering? So yeah, very fair question. The first big difference is I have all the commands given to you as a part of the template. And then the other thing is it's more like I have applied my opinion to the questions that I think Kiro should ask you in order to create the steering documents effectively. So I've supplied the template and the questions. If you were to ask Kiro to just like build them for you initially, then it would probably do a fine job, but I don't think it'd be as good because I've like iterated on my sort of process for starting a new project and the kinds of questions that I would want my coding agent to ask me. So I took some ideas like even before I was using Kiro, like from like Claude Code and using other things like Windsurf, and I've just like taken a lot of that and applied it to this template that I built for you. So think of it like me just taking a lot of my experience of what's worked for me and built it into this template for you with the quick start and all the commands that I have that you can optionally use for your development flow if you'd like. What model are you using right now with Kiro? Are you in auto mode or do you switch? So I've been just working in auto mode, and it's been working fantastic for me. So in general, when you do the auto mode, it gives you about Claude Sonnet 4.5 performance. So nice and fast and effective. It seems to do a good job of picking the more powerful models when it needs to, and I have not had a problem. I wish there was more visibility into like what model it's currently using. That's a bit of a bummer. And so like I definitely could respect if you want to like always use Sonnet or always use Opus, but this has worked well for me. I've gotten really good results. The task by task breakdown are actual user stories. The user story is more like an epic. Yeah, that's fair. There's probably a way to improve the planning and like the structure that I have for the plan. Yeah, it just depends. Like, I wanted to make it more general so that you can like apply it to different levels of like how much you're building, or if you would call it a subtask or a task or an epic. But I mean, that's a fair critique for sure. All right. So what's the link to the repo? And is the starter, or is the start after the live stream or at the 5th? I missed the start of the live stream. Yeah, totally fair. So for the link, I will add this into the chat right now. Go in, boom, there we go. All right. So there's the link to the repo. It's available right now. You can definitely feel free to get started. So the hackathon officially starts submissions open on the 5th, but if you want to just take advantage of the free 500 credits right now and start building and then get the other credits on Monday and continue, you definitely can. So this is the launch party. Submissions haven't officially opened yet, but you're going to need time to build anyway, so you could definitely just get started and consider this live stream like the start of the building period, just not the submission period. They just happen to have an extreme amount of overlap. But yeah, you can definitely get started now. All right. What else do we got here? Okay, use your repo. Awesome. Yeah, great. Sounds good. This template will save a lot of time. We can focus on the application. That's exactly the goal. You're welcome, Scott. Yeah. My guess is you'll get extra points for using the template. No, not necessarily. I mean, I built the template in a way where I genuinely believe it'll help you get a good start, so you'll be able to get into the application quicker. And so by that nature, like theoretically, it'll help you score better because the application's better, but I will not prioritize someone or favoritism, I guess is the better word. I won't have any favoritism just because it's obvious you use the template. Like, please don't think that like I'm gonna be like low key enforcing the template because of that or anything. Yeah. Okay. So then Rasmus added a good distinction here. So because Rasmus he's on the Dynamous team, will also help me judge. That's why he said I. But this I agree with this myself as well. You will get more points if you develop something beyond the template. So if it's clear that you took the template and you really customize the prompts and steering documents, or if you didn't use the template, but you still are just developing your own steering documents and prompts and like you're really creating your own system for AI coding, that definitely will help you score better for your submission. I mean, in the end, just think of it this way. It's as simple as if it's obvious you're applying an extreme amount of critical thinking to your development workflow, you'll score better because that's part of what we want to see. That's the whole point of having your README and your devlog and your steering documents. The whole point of having this all as a part of your submission is because we're judging not just on the application quality, but also on your process. Now, if your process is really good, that will lead to a good application. But we just want to look at both. We want to be able to judge both because it also just makes the hackathon more interesting. There's just more dimension to what we're looking at. And so that's why I really wanted to have this be a core part of the submission. It's not just the source code. So I hope that makes sense. I think overall it just makes the hackathon more exciting for everyone. No critique, just an observation. That's fair. Yeah, I appreciate the observation on the user story. Okay, yeah, I was kidding. I know it's the idea and the execution that matters. Okay, gotcha. Can we use integrations with existing projects? With CRXNG and Docker, the app leverages for web search. If you want to, you definitely can. Yeah, unfortunately, I think this is kind of like the last big thing that I'll hit on, and then we'll probably call the stream pretty soon here. The last thing that I want to hit on is kind of to this question here. There is a bit of a gray area I've talked about a bit already, where it's like I want this to be very open-ended as far as what you build. And that does mean that there's going to be a pretty wide range of tools and frameworks and just like applications and prerequisites for your project. But if your project is like super complex and there's like this 50-step process to get all these Docker containers set up and you need these 3 API keys and you have to install 20 gigabytes worth of dependencies, like that's not going to be good for your submission. So we're going to be very lenient. Like I will expend effort. Like if you have a couple of prerequisites where it's like, okay, you have to use an LLM API key. There's a couple of containers that you have to spin up. That's totally okay. And now exactly where I would draw the line of like, that's too much, it's really, really hard to say. So I'll leave it up to your judgment. And in the end, if I end up drawing the line, but it's like really close, I'm not going to just like dismiss your submission. I just might have to evaluate more based on just the code quality versus running it. And then that would probably affect your score a little bit. But if your application is like clearly the most well designed, I think in the end it still would win. So yeah, it's like just use your better judgment. And like I said earlier, you could maybe deploy a kind of strategy where it's like there's a little part of your application that requires this API key you wouldn't expect us to set up. So like maybe that part is optional. Or you could have like mock data if there's some like really weird database service that you're relying on pulling things from. You could like mock that part for when we run it ourselves. So get creative about that. Use Kiro to help you think about how difficult it is to like set things up from scratch. So especially as you're building out your README, it should be pretty obvious. Like if I hand this to some other developer, or in this case, Cole or an AWS guest judge or Rasmus or whatever, like are they going to actually struggle to set this up and be like, oh, I have to set up this key and install these things? Like it should just be low friction overall. And you can design things in a way where they are, especially through leveraging tools like Docker, so you can containerize things to have a very consistent environment for running your application, so it's easy for us to build it and run it ourselves. Because in the end, it will help your score the most if it is easy for us to spin it up ourselves. Yes, you're welcome for clarifying. In short, lightweight. Yeah, exactly. Keep it light. Now, for very complex applications, sometimes a really good idea does require some complexity, but just work your hardest to make it easy to maintain and start. All right. Have you considered turning on the template repo flag for the repo? I forgot about that. That's a good thought, though. I forget exactly how to do that, but I think it's pretty easy. I've only done that once before, actually, believe it or not. I don't remember. Oh, it's just this, isn't it? I just did it. Okay, I think that's it. Well, let me go back to the code here. Oh yeah, okay. Thanks, Tony. Well, there we go. It's a template now. So now when you click use this template, what that means is that you can very easily just create a new repository from what I have here. So you have now your own repo that you're working in your own copy of it. And it's different from a fork because it's not going to be like tied to the original parent repo. It's now your own distinct repository for you to work on. And so, yeah, thanks for the suggestion there. All right, very good. Well, I believe that's everything. So I know there's a couple of other questions in the chat that I didn't get to. So if there is any other question that you have that you didn't get to ask or I didn't get to, because I know that the chat is kind of hard to like get through literally everything, please feel free. In the Dynamous community, we have the primary hackathon channel here. So once you are registered for the hackathon, you can go ahead and just post any question that you have here. And I'm in the community. Obviously, Dynamous is like my baby. Like I'm here every single day. And so during the period of the hackathon, I'm going to be spending a lot of time in this portion of Dynamous as well for all of you. So I'll be there to answer any questions that you guys have. If you have any suggestions to improve the template or just ideas for the hackathon overall, I'm all ears. So yeah, I really appreciate all you guys being here. Funny question. Why do you use master instead of main? I asked Claude to create the repo for me and it did that for some reason. Master is like a really old, or not really old, but it's an old nomenclature for the main branch. GitHub just kind of like changed that as a standard. I don't know why. I just left it. I mean, I could probably change that. But anyway. So yeah, the last thing that I'll say, I'll just show the agentic coding course one more time. If you want to learn how to build reliable and repeatable systems for getting insane results with AI coding assistance, check out the agentic coding course. It goes along really well with the hackathon. It'll help you compete in the hackathon. So certainly not a requirement. And again, you don't have to be a member of Dynamous to compete in the hackathon, but this is a fantastic resource. I really believe it's the best on the internet for working effectively with AI coding assistants. The way that you can take them, how far you can take them is just incredible. And that's what I unveil to you in the course here. And then also there's so much more in Dynamous as well with the AI Agent Mastery course, the weekly workshops that I do every single Friday, daily events. We got the community here. There's so many bright minds sharing ideas with each other constantly. And so much in Dynamous. And so I hope to see you there. And of course, I hope to see you in the hackathon as well. And so I'll put this link in the chat to close things off as well. Make sure that you get in, you register, click on this button. You'll be in the community with the Kiro Hackathon section open up. And then come for the announcements on Monday as well. So I'll announce how exactly you submit, a couple of other rules I might, or not rules, but like other considerations and tips I want to give you, and then also where you can claim your credits for the hackathon. So all that coming on early next week. And so stay tuned for that. Thank you everyone for being here in the live stream. It was absolutely a blast. I always go longer than I plan on in these streams, but I consider that a good thing because it's always such a good time. So thank you everyone for being here, all your questions and engagement, and for registering for the hackathon. We're at over 250 people now, which is very exciting. I'll go ahead and call the stream here, and I will talk to you all again on Monday for the hackathon. So take care everyone. Thank you for being here.